Chapter 579. Seeing this, Chen had a bad feeling. But Hoppa had sent someone to deliver the message, and now he was here. He didn't even have a chance to catch his breath. Until now, he still didn't know what to do. His heart was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, but he was still the head of the family. He forced himself to look calm and said, "Chief Hopper, we were just discussing how to help you attack the fallen Maple Sword sect." I didn't expect Chief Hopper to come so quickly. This time, it was Hoppu who spoke, and Ling Shichi stood behind him. It was not that he didn't want to show off, but the Chens were built near Scorching Sun City, and there were some people around. At this time, many people had gathered, so it was inconvenient for him to show up. Fortunately, he had told Hoppu what to do before he came. At this time, Hoppu shouted at the top of his voice, "There's no need to discuss. In order to save time, you can gather all your men. We'll set off for the fallen Maple Sword sect together. I'll only give you an hour." Hearing this, Chen panicked. Not only him, but all the members of the Chens who heard this were panicking. He hurriedly said, "Chief Hoppu, don't worry, enough." Hoppu interrupted Chen, "I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. You've received so many benefits from me, so you should do your best for me. This time, the fallen Maple Sword sect will be led by your Chens." "Impossible!" Chen shouted subconsciously, but he immediately realized that he had misspoken. As expected, Hoppu sneered, "Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then pay with your life. Kill!" With the word "kill," thousands of soldiers roared and rushed out crazily. Ling Shichi also fixed his eyes on Chen. He wanted to test out his current strength, but last time at the Water Cloud sect, that Shui Yuntian was too weak, and he killed him in 2 moves. Now, Chen was at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm, just like him, so he could use him as a test stone. Ling Shichi waved his arms, and hundreds of shining starlight and red and blue sword chi appeared in the air in an instant. The Heavenly Cycle Star God technique that he cultivated had an accompanying spiritual skill called Starlight Sword Aura. This spiritual skill was only a level 4 spiritual skill and was not considered very powerful. However, the Starlight Sword Chi had a very good characteristic, and that was its extreme speed. Ling Shichi's Sanju Sword Chi was integrated a long time ago. Even for him who was in Gang's spirit realm, he could not keep up with it. Therefore, he integrated the Starlight Sword Chi into the Sanju Sword Chi during his closed-door training for 2 months. It was the Star Extinction Sword Chi. The current Star Extinction Sword Chi might not be too powerful, but it had the advantage of quantity and speed. Hundreds of sword chis of Star Extinction shot out like a meteor shower, instantly enveloping Chen. Chen did not know where this spirit cultivator of the spirit astral realm came from in the Huangshuan tribe. His strength was so strong that when he saw the sword chi that filled the sky, he actually felt that he could not resist it. He hurriedly pulled out a heavy sword, and the heavy thick earth spiritual gang burst out, dispersing a small part of the Star of Extinction sword chi. At the same time, seeing that Hoppu didn't intend to attack, he also had a trace of luck in his heart. As long as I can stop this person for a moment, I may be able to escape. However, what he didn't notice was that a dozen shining stars quietly appeared in the sword chi of Extinction sword chi. Those stars trembled and suddenly shot out starlight chains from them. With a few swishing sounds, Chen whole body was tightly bound by the starlight chains, and even the spiritual sword in his hand was blocked. 6th level spiritual magic skill, Celestial Star Lock. This was a relatively special spiritual magic skill. The Celestial Star Lock did not have actual damage, but the binding ability of the Celestial Star Lock was extremely strong. Even Chen a master of Gang's spirit realm, could not move after being trapped. Chen realized that he was about to die after just 2 moves. He panicked and immediately shouted, "Stop fighting. The Qin family is willing to submit to the Baron Chuan tribe. We will be loyal to them for generations to come. We will never complain. Hopu's expression changed when he heard this. He seemed to be a little tempted. However, Ling Shiqi pointed at Chen Chuling, and a finger's strength as fast as thunder and meteor pierced through the sky, directly penetrating Chen Chuling's lower abdomen. Chen Chuling originally thought that he was going to die, but when he discovered that the finger energy didn't hit his vital points, his whole body instantly broke out in a layer of cold sweat. He thought that the other party was teaching him a lesson and didn't want to take his life. However, the next moment, a horrible energy suddenly exploded in his body, and Chen Chuling's flesh and blood flew everywhere. This was Ling Shiqi's 5th-level spiritual skill, Starbreaking Finger, which was integrated into the thunder-shocking Blood Sky Finger. It not only had stronger penetrating power and faster speed, but also could explode the concentrated evil blood force, thunder-shocking force, and star force after hitting the enemy, which was amazing. When Ling Shiqi was still in the elite club, he had to try his best to kill a master at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. But now, he could kill him with a flip of his hand. First of all, after practicing the supreme method of Heavenly Star technique, he integrated his own methods of various attributes into it. The spiritual power in his body could be compared with the middle and late stages of Gang's spirit realm. Moreover, he opened up all the spiritual meridians and spiritual cavities in his body, and even he did not know how strong the power was. On top of that, his physical strength and mental strength were extremely strong, which complemented his spiritual power. In this way, the early stage of Gang's spirit realm was nothing in front of him. Ling Shiqi did not move, but killed Chen Chuling, who was at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm, in 3 moves, which shocked Hopu. If he were to personally go up and use all of his strength to kill Chen Chuling, perhaps it would only take him a few moves. But Ling Shiqi had done it so easily, with just a wave of his hand. Hope admitted that he couldn't do it. After Chen Chuling died, the Chens had no chance to resist, and could only be slaughtered by the warriors of the Huangchuan tribe. There were quite a few people gathered near the Qin family. When they saw this bloody scene, they were all terrified. Some of the more timid ones began to tremble, while others turned around and ran away. Therefore, the news of the Huangchuan tribe exterminating the Qin family spread like wildfire. Everyone who heard the news thought that Hopu had lost his mind. However, many people were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe. They were not afraid of how strong other forces were, but they were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe, which was a mad dog that would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Hopu walked on the ground covered with corpses, and he began to enjoy this feeling. All his recent suffocation could be said to have been vented. How delightful! He said to Ling Shiqi, "Mr. Liu, tell me what to do next, and I'll do it." Ling Shiqi chuckled and said, "The next step is simple. We destroyed 2 third-rate sects in a row, and others have seen the determination and ruthlessness of the Huangchuan tribe. Leader Hopu, as long as you go to those sects who have received benefits from you or want to join forces with the Huangchuan tribe, they will most likely choose to join forces with you." In fact, it was true. Not to mention the entire Ningyan County, even the sects around the Huangchuan tribe were scared by Hopu. As long as he went there, those sects would immediately agree to cooperate with him and send him a large number of masters on the spot. In a few days, the Huangchuan tribe had gathered 4 third-rate sects, and there were more than 10 people in the Spirit Aperture realm who could help. Although the fallen Maple Sword sect would not join them, they agreed to lend Hopu 2 masters in the Spirit Aperture realm. This kind of combat power had completely surpassed Hopu's old rival, the Huangchuan tribe. On this day, Hopu returned to the tribe happily. Ling Shiqi said, "It's time to start the second step of the plan." Chapter 580. Hope's rival, the Wilderness tribe, was also very famous in Ningyan County, because there were 5 Gang spirit realm experts in the tribe. Coupled with the tribe's inherited secret method, they were so powerful that sometimes they even dared to fight with the first-class forces. The wilderness tribe also controlled 2 valuable mineral veins, which were also very rich. On this day, a caravan of the wilderness tribe walked into a dense forest. This caravan was not weak. The leader was the second leader of the wilderness tribe, Cook, who was at the 7th level of Gang's spirit realm. His physique was not very tall and muscular. There was an exquisite emerald gem on his forehead. This was a unique feature of the Huangchuan tribe. Only those at the 4 realms of celestial being were qualified to wear it. The higher their cultivation, the larger and more exquisite the gem. This thing was not only a decoration and a symbol of identity, but also the source of the wilderness tribe's inherited power. In addition to Cook, there were 5 spirit aperture realm experts and 20 to 30 spiritual pulse realm experts in the caravan. The rest of the escorts were also in the spirit transformation realm, which showed that this batch of goods must be very precious and important. Cook was very confident. With the strength of his caravan, unless there were several Gang spirit realm experts or oneness of heaven, he did not think that anyone could threaten him. However, suddenly, the ground of the caravan lit up with countless flames, and a huge array suddenly appeared. 9 huge golden fire pillars soared into the sky and dyed the sky red. There seemed to be a dragon's roar as the flames burst out. The dragon's flame lit up the world and burned everything. Before the caravan could react, the dragon's flame had mercilessly devoured 60 to 70% of the spirit cultivators. This was the horror of a spirit cultivator. If he arranged the array in advance, he could create a terrible power in an instant. Only then did Cook react. He saw that the gem on his forehead was emitting a mysterious green light. As long as the light came into contact with the flames, it would disperse them. The same was true for the rest of the people. Finally, they managed to block the 9 palace fire formation supported by the pure gold earth dragon flame. But Cook knew that this was just a temporary measure. They would not be able to hold on for long. He immediately shouted, "Who dares to sneak attack my wilderness tribe?" However, the answer to him was 2 blood-colored saber auras that were more than 100 feet long. For a moment, blood chi soared to the heavens as the astral blade tore through the sky. However, the target of the astral blade was not Cook, but the spirit aperture realm and spirit pulse realm warriors behind him. How could those people withstand this ferocious blood-colored saber aura? They didn't even have the chance to escape before they were torn into pieces by the saber aura. After a few blinks of an eye, only Cook was left of the caravan that originally had over 100 people. Cook also had a bad feeling. He could also see that the other party wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop, not leaving a single one alive. Sadly, until now, he hadn't even seen the shadow of the enemy. The next moment, layers of crimson ice crystals scattered like snowflakes, condensing into an ice crystal cage around them. Cook's heart sank again. This was equivalent to cutting off his escape route. At this moment, 2 blood-red figures suddenly appeared. They were both wearing blood-red robes with mysterious golden patterns embroidered on their sleeves and collars, symbolizing their identities. A golden-striped blood-clothed assassin from the blood-clothed pavilion. Cook blurted out in horror. No wonder the other party had such horrible strength. However, he was more confused. Who could hire 2 golden-striped blood-red killers to kill him? The 2 were naturally Ling Shiqi and Feng Sharmo. Since they were going to deal with the wilderness tribe, of course, they had to weaken their strength. This time, Cook brought a large number of masters to escort the caravan, which gave them a good opportunity. As long as they could kill all of Cook's people, the wilderness tribe would lose a quarter of its combat power. Facing the 2 golden-striped blood-red-clothed assassins, Cook was also scared witless, especially the 9 palace fire formation. It was still burning at this moment. Now that the surroundings were blocked, he had no way out. He had to shout, "You too, although I don't know who hired you, I'm willing to pay twice, no, 10 times the reward, just let me live." Ling Shiqi ignored Cook, who was still surrounded by the 9 palace fire formation and had lost his courage. Even though he was at the 7th level of Gang's spirit realm, he was no longer a threat. He turned his head and said, "Senior brother Feng, let's make it quick." Feng Sharmo did not speak. He reached out and a grey long saber with wind patterns appeared in his hand. As soon as the saber appeared, the surrounding spiritual power of heaven and earth stagnated. Ling Shiqi's eyes widened slightly. This saber was a 7th-level precious weapon, Sky-Hating Gale Saber. He could only say that the Pavilion Master's prototype was indeed different. A 7th-level precious weapon. Let alone a Gang Spirit Realm Master, even a great master in the oneness of heaven and men realm could only have a few 7th-level precious weapons. Naturally, Cook recognized the 7th-level precious weapon at a glance. His heart was filled with despair. However, he was a master in the late stage of Gang's spirit realm after all. He knew there was no other way but to risk his life at this time. The gem on his forehead suddenly burst, and rich green light poured into his body, forming mysterious green patterns on the surface of his body. Feng Sharmo moved even faster. He raised his saber and slashed down. In an instant, an illusory wind saber more than 100 meters long chopped down, which was about to cut off the heaven and earth. In the face of this destructive saber, Cook roared, and the shadow of a giant beast from ancient times seemed to appear behind him. Unfortunately, just as he was about to break out and risk his life, Ling Shiqi made a gesture with one hand, and his whole body suddenly bloomed with endless 9-colored light, as if weaving a wonderful dreamland. The 6th-level illusion, flowing light illusion skill. Cook's eyes were absent-minded. In his eyes, there was only a dreamlike 9-colored world, which intoxicated him. The giant beast's shadow behind him also dissipated. At the same time, Feng Sharmo's saber had already chopped down. Strangely, although Cook was absent-minded for a moment, when the saber approached him, the green patterns on his body automatically flew out and entangled the illusory wind saber. Those green rays of light looked very weak, but they were extremely tough. They actually blocked the saber. Feng Sharmo snorted coldly. With one side of his saber, the shocking saber intent caused the wind to surge and the heaven and earth to shake. The illusory wind saber suddenly exploded, and countless sharp saber auras wreaked havoc, directly cutting Cook into pieces. This was Feng Sharmo's true strength. Perhaps it was because he had disguised himself as a Dark Thunder Guard for a long time and had held back for a long time, but Feng Sharmo fought to his heart's content, and Ling Shiqi became his assistant. However, Ling Shiqi did not care. As long as he could destroy this caravan, it was fine. He then kept the huge amount of precious ores in his pocket. If he sold all of these things, he would be able to get more than 700,000 to 800,000 spirit stones. Other than that, there were also many mustard seed bags and bracelets from spirit cultivators. Added together, it was a huge fortune. Feng Sharmo did not care about these resources. He walked over and said, "The next step should be to attack the Wasteland tribe. From now on, you can be considered to have Hopu's Wasteland tribe as your foundation. You will have the confidence to deal with Li Zhongtao. It is indeed a good plan." Ling Shiqi also nodded. It was rare to be praised by Feng Sharmo. However, Ling Shiqi had other plans. Just as he was about to talk about the follow-up plan, a notification suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. "Congratulations, host, the system has been successfully upgraded. Please take a look." Chapter 581. Ling Shiqi was also a little surprised to see this message. He didn't expect that 100 days had passed so quickly. He did a rough calculation and found that it was almost the same. He broke through to the Gang spirit realm in the Zhuge family's territory. Since the system was upgraded, he couldn't use the skill Fate, so it took him more than a month to return to the imperial capital from Shantai County and then to Ningyang County from the imperial capital. Excluding the 2 months he spent in closed-door training, it should be 100 days now. Now that the system was upgraded, he had to study it. But his next plan was to attack the wilderness tribe with hope before the news of the death of Cook and others was sent back. But the system had been reactivated, which meant that he could use the skill Fate to teleport, so it didn't matter if he wasted some time. He immediately split up with Feng Sha Mo. Feng Sha Mo went to inform Hopu to release his men and split them into 2 groups. One group was to ambush near the Wasteland tribe. The other group only had a few people, but they must all be masters of the gang's spirit realm. These people came here to wait for the big fish to take the bait. Ling Shiqi found a hidden place to set up inhibition and began to study the changes of the system. He first opened his information, name, Ling Shiqi, Lu Xingji, cultivation, level 1 of the gang's spirit realm status, peak bloodline, Dark Shadow Clan, Star Clan Management Authority, 49. 99% system energy, 50% cultivation method, special cultivation method, Wild Demon Blood Beast Body Sovereign Cultivation Technique, Heavenly Cycle Star God Technique Spiritual Technique, 6th Level Spiritual Technique, Heavenly Star Lock 6th Level Spiritual Technique, 5 Gods Illusion 6th Level Spiritual Technique, Flowing Light Illusion Special Spiritual Technique, Star Fall Technique System Coin, 300. The information interface didn't change much, but his system authority became 49. 99%, which was only a little bit more than half of the control. This also showed that the consciousness of the system still existed. But he was confident that as long as he killed one more time, he could seize the absolute control of the system. He checked all the subsidiary systems one by one. The system space had expanded a lot, so he didn't have to worry about the storage capacity anymore. The items in the system store had expanded to dozens. What was worth mentioning was that he could get a 20% discount when buying things in the system store. Perhaps this was the benefit of having a high level of system authority. He looked at the dazzling array of goods and was tempted. Unfortunately, he couldn't bear to look at the system coins he had now. When Ling Shiqi thought of this, he sold all the resources he had obtained from the Western Desert Province and the resources he had obtained from destroying the 2 third-rate sects to the system. Not only did he obtain more than 5,000 system coins, but the strange energy had also appeared in his body. However, the energy still disappeared in a flash. He did not know where it went, nor did he know how to mobilize it. Now that he had the system coins, he didn't immediately buy anything. Instead, he continued to check if there were any changes in the other subsidiary systems. He opened the pet system and found that in addition to the original pet summon, pet bind, and pet upgrade, there were also options for pet enhancement and pet advancement. What surprised him even more was that he had an extra pet space. This meant that he could bring another pet with him. The Goo King's ability and the help it gave him was so great that he felt the great benefits of having a pet. He had always been glad that he had chosen the pet system. The Goo King had absorbed a lot of energy in the dragon vein and was still in the process of advancing. Therefore, he could summon another pet to use first. Thinking of advancement, he looked at the option of a pet advancement. He put the Goo King into the pet space and clicked on pet advancement. Sure enough, a line of information appeared in front of him. Pet advancement progress, 82%. At the same time, he also saw that he could directly give the pet an advancement pill to greatly increase the speed of advancement. However, the Goo King had to use an intermediate advancement pill to advance from rank 4 to rank 5. Ling Shiqi looked at the price. Good heavens, 2,000 system coins for one pill. He decided to let the Goo King slowly advance on its own. It would be soon anyway. As for the other pet enhancement, it divided the pet's attributes into 4 types, namely strength, agility, vitality, and intelligence. Spending some system coins to buy an enhancement pill could enhance one of the attributes. Ling Shiqi didn't need it for the time being. Since there was an extra pet slot, he decided to draw a pet first. Ling Shiqi then clicked on the pet's summoning interface. He didn't hesitate and spent 3,000 system coins to perform an advanced pet summoning. 3 colors of blue, purple, and gold flashed in front of his eyes. This also corresponded to the pet's grade. Ling Shiqi couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After all, the difference between blue and gold was still very big. In the end, the color settled on purple. Ling Shiqi was secretly relieved. The purple grade was the same grade as the Goo King. Although it wasn't the best, it was still better than the blue grade. However, when the purple light dissipated and revealed the body of the pet, Ling Shiqi was stunned. What did he see? What he saw was a round, pink, and tender pig. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a purple grade pet, 4-legged metal swallowing beast. 4-legged metal swallowing beast. Ling Shiqi was surprised. Did such a creature really exist in this world? After the summoning was completed, the little pig jumped directly into Ling Shiqi's arms and snuggled a few times. It even made a gulyalu sound. It seemed to be very affectionate towards Ling Shiqi. Ling Shiqi was speechless as he picked up the little pig. The little pig was indeed very small. It was only as long as his forearm. At this time, its 2 small eyes were blinking at Ling Shiqi. Now that you mention it, it was a little cute. However, what was its use? As a purple grade pet, there should be something special about it. He opened the pet information and found that this 4-legged metal swallowing beast lived up to its name. There were only 2 ways to make this beast grow quickly. One was to swallow pet experience pills, and the other was to swallow spiritual stones. Not materials, but spiritual stones. For example, Ling Shiqi would feed the Goo King some materials when he was free. However, this 4-legged metal swallowing beast only ate spiritual stones. It really lived up to its name. The 4-legged metal swallowing beast's ability was also special. It was not a combat type pet, but a support type. Its ability was to search for nearby treasures. The higher its grade, the better the range and quality of the treasures it could search. It could be said that this 4-legged metal swallowing beast was a treasure hunting compass. Unfortunately, this little thing was only stage 1 and could only search for stage 1 resources within 100 feet. It still needed to be nurtured. Ling Shiqi touched his chin. This thing was not useless. Although it required a lot of spiritual stones to feed it, he had just obtained a large amount of resources and could completely afford to raise it. In the future, he could also obtain a lot of precious resources through this beast. As long as he worked hard, he would be able to make a profit. Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi's heart could accept it. He took out a spiritual stone and put it in front of the 4-legged metal swallowing beast's face. Its small eyes suddenly became round, and its 4 short little legs began to move. It opened its mouth and swallowed the spiritual stone. With a few crunching sounds, the spiritual stone went into its stomach. After that, the little thing looked at Ling Shiqi with a face full of anticipation. It was almost drooling. Ling Shiqi smiled and said, "It's not that big, but its appetite is not small." Then he took out a few spiritual stones and put them aside for the little thing to eat. He was ready to see if there were any changes to the lottery system. Chapter 582. Ling Shiqi opened the Lucky Draw interface. Unfortunately, there were no new Lucky Draw options, but there was a free unlimited Lucky Draw option. He thought about it and realized that it had been a long time since he last did the Lucky Draw. The system coins that he had saved up in the past were all used to upgrade the system map, by the Great Bright Fist, and exchange them for spirit stones at the auction. It could be said that all the system coins had been spent on the Lucky Draw, which meant that he had never had the chance to use them for the Lucky Draw. It was the same now. He had just summoned his pet and spent 3,000 system coins. The remaining 2,000 had to be used to buy some pet experience pills for the four-legged metal-swallowing beast. In addition, the shop had expanded a lot, and there were some things that he needed. Therefore, the system coins were still too scarce. He did not have much extra to use for the lucky draw. Of course, the most important thing was that even if he did not do the lucky draw, he was still self-sufficient. He was now very rich in cultivation methods, spiritual skills, and spiritual weapons. Then, he skillfully pressed the "Unlimited Lucky Draw" button. He was very calm. After a flash of light, a secret manual appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, level 6 spiritual skill, 9 white bone claw. 9 white bone claw. It's such a vicious spiritual skill. Ling Shichi muttered as he picked up the secret manual. However, he suddenly smiled because he had a lot of vicious cultivation methods and spiritual skills. It just so happens that the Earth Demon Dragon Claw is too weak. It has some similarities with the 9 white bone claw, so it can be combined. He quickly found a way to combine them. After the lucky draw, he was ready to see if there were any subsidiary systems that could be activated. Every time the system upgraded, a subsidiary system would be activated. Last time, he chose the pet system among several subsidiary systems. This time, he did not know what system he could choose from. System upgrade successful. Please choose a subsidiary system. Ling Shichi clicked on this notification. Then, a large number of words suddenly appeared on the screen in front of him. Mission system, equipment system, dungeon system, team system, guild system, territory system, achievement system, master system, profession system, challenge system, mount system. There were dozens and hundreds of systems that he could choose from. Ling Shichi was overjoyed, but at the same time, he felt a headache coming on. How long would it take to study them one by one? Now, he could only use the elimination method to quickly choose. First, in the first round, he would eliminate the subsidiary systems that could be eliminated without even looking at them, such as the mission, life, master and apprentice, marriage systems, and so on. After that, there were still about 50 to 60 subsidiary systems. He could only click on them one by one to take a closer look. The challenge system was an activity similar to climbing a tower. Every time one succeeded, there would be a certain reward. The earlier stages were relatively simple, and one could accumulate some resources. However, it would only get more and more difficult towards the end, to the point where it would be difficult to even take a single step. Apart from harvesting some low-grade and mid-grade resources, it would not be of much use, so it was eliminated. Team system, you can form a team with up to 4 people. You can sense each other and communicate with each other from a distance. He could only say that it was indeed very convenient. However, the only people he could trust in this world were the Delta Origi. He couldn't even gather 5 people, so he eliminated them. After rounds of selection, Ling Shichi was only left with 4 subsidiary systems. They were the instant system, the profession system, the territory system, and the talent system. The instant system, as the name implied, allowed you to enter a dungeon. Back on Blood Mist Island, he had entered a mystical ruins instance. The battle had been fierce, but the rewards had been good. The instant system actually had 2 ways to unlock a dungeon. One was the instance card he had used before. After activating the instance system, you could obtain an instance card every day. As for the quality of the card and the type of dungeon, it was completely random. The other was to connect to a virtual world and set it as a large instance dungeon. It was then divided into smaller instance dungeons of varying difficulty. Once you cleared all the instance dungeons in this instance dungeon, you could continue to unlock the next instance dungeon. To put it bluntly, the instance system allowed you to enter one instance dungeon after another. You could either kill monsters or complete special quests, and finally receive the corresponding rewards. The profession system gave you a random profession, such as a craftsman, an alchemist, an array master, and so on. Ling Shiqi would be very happy if he could get these professions randomly. However, there were also some strange professions. Like a demon hunter, a scavenger, a coffin keeper, no matter how you looked at it, they didn't seem like proper professions. Ling Shiqi was hesitant. The territory system. After activating this system, you had to randomly select a territory. This territory could be a mansion, an underground city, a secret realm, or even a futuristic sci-fi base. Once you had a territory, you would be the overlord of it. You would then have all sorts of ways to expand your territory. However, you only had one chance to select a territory. You could not change what territory you selected. It was a bit like an infinite lottery where the upper and lower limits were high. The talents in the talent system were somewhat similar to the bloodline power in this world, but talents were also drawn. For example, there was the talent Rapid Progress, which could speed up cultivation, the talent of Berserk God, which could increase spiritual power, and the pupil skill, Supercilious Eyes, which he already had. It could be said that the innate gift system could directly or indirectly increase Ling Shiqi's strength. It was also the auxiliary system that he liked the most. Ling Shiqi's brows furrowed as he pondered. For a moment, he didn't know which system to choose. These 4 subsidiary systems were carefully selected by him. Each of them had their own advantages. Of course, they also had their own disadvantages. For example, they were all more dependent on one's looks. After careful consideration, Ling Shiqi decided to eliminate the profession system. Although there was a chance that he'd be selected as an artificer or alchemist, Ling Shiqi didn't consider them irreplaceable. Especially after his strength and status became higher and higher, he was naturally able to mobilize high-level weapon refiners to forge ice blades for him, or invite alchemy masters to refine pills for him. If he'd been able to secure a good profession, he wouldn't have hesitated to choose the auxiliary system. Unfortunately, the profession system was random, so he had no choice but to give it up. Then, he eliminated the instance dungeon system. He'd entered an instance system before, and knew he'd have to enter in his own body. Fighting in the instance system would inevitably lead to injuries. He wasn't afraid of being injured, but his status was becoming more and more sensitive. He didn't know how many people were secretly watching him. If he was inexplicably injured, it was inevitable that people would notice and target him. In the end, he could only choose between the territory system and the innate gift system. Chapter 583. Only the territory system and the talent system were left. One could help him cultivate his forces, and the other could enhance his strength. It was really difficult to choose. If Ling Shiqi was still in the spirit aperture realm, he would not hesitate to choose the talent system. But now, Ling Shiqi's strength was comparable to the late stage of Gang's spirit realm. No matter where he went, he could be called a master. He already had a certain foundation. Therefore, the cultivation of forces was also the most important thing for his future development. He now had the forces of the Dark Thunder Guards in the West and North counties, as well as several Dark Thunder Guards in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards. He could also mobilize some of the killers of the Bloodcloak Pavilion. These 3 forces were actually not weak, but unfortunately, they were too scattered, and he could not use them freely. If he had his own force, then all the problems would be solved. In fact, this was also a great ambition hidden in Ling Shiqi's heart. That was, he would establish his own forces sooner or later. Whether it was the Bloodcloak Pavilion or the Dark Thunder Guards, for him, they were just a process of improving his strength and accumulating his foundation. Of course, he could not let the people of the Bloodcloak Pavilion and Eunuch Gao know this, or he would die miserably. Thinking of this, he was a little inclined to the territory system. But this territory system had the same major drawback as the profession system, that was, it was too dependent on luck. Ling Shiqi did not have to draw the best territory, but at least it could not be too shabby. The good thing about the talent system was that as long as he was willing to spend the system coins, he could definitely draw a good talent system. He still could not make up his mind, so he carefully studied the two systems. He unexpectedly found that no matter what kind of territory he drew in the territory system, this territory would not appear in this world, but was equivalent to a separate small space. Just like the small space of the Phantom Spirit's secret realm and the Zhuge family's land. The most important thing was that Ling Shiqi, as the owner of the territory, could teleport into the territory at any time. What did this mean? Of course, it was convenient, but Ling Shiqi thought that this was an excellent way to escape. If he encountered any dangerous or powerful enemies, he could teleport directly to the territory and naturally avoid the danger. Ling Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. Although fate had a similar effect, it relied too much on the system map. Once the system entered an upgrade state, it would no longer be usable. Furthermore, the fate skill also had a channeling time. It was a very short period of time, but to an expert, even an instant was enough to kill you 1,000 times over. Compared to increasing his strength, having this absolute life-saving ability seemed to be more practical. Thinking of this, Ling Shiqi finally made up his mind and chose the territory system. Congratulations to the host for activating the subsidiary system, territory system. Randomly selecting territory, Ling Shiqi was not as nervous as before. He only needed the territory system to save his life. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the divine territory, Underworld. Swoosh. Ling Shiqi suddenly stood up, his face full of undisguised surprise. Divine Grade Territory. After the unlimited skill points, he finally got another divine tier reward. He was well aware of the benefits of divine tier rewards. It could also be said that the unlimited skill points played an important and irreplaceable role in his current strength and achievements. He could use the unlimited skill points to quickly cultivate his spiritual skills to the highest level and gain a lot of insight and understanding. Therefore, he could smoothly fuse his spiritual skills. Therefore, the unlimited skill points were the foundation of his success. And now, he finally got another divine tier reward, Underworld. Underworld. Could it be that Underworld? Ling Shiqi murmured. He was a little unsure if it was the underworld that he imagined. Whether it was or not, he would know once he entered. Ling Shiqi immediately opened the new territory system. There was indeed an option to enter territory. He gently clicked on it, and immediately, his body disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in an extremely dark world. After seeing the surroundings clearly, Ling Shiqi was a little surprised. This was because as far as the eye could see, this space was pitifully small. It was similar to the small arcane realm that Oziu found back then. It was only a few miles in radius and he could see the end of it at a glance. At this moment, Ling Shiqi was standing in front of a dilapidated wooden gatehouse. This gatehouse was 2 feet tall and had a strange shape. There were some evil spirit patterns on it. However, most of the wooden structure had already rotted, as if it would collapse at any time. Ling Shiqi looked up and saw 3 large pitch-black words at the top of the gatehouse, Underworld's Gate. Seeing these 3 words, Ling Shiqi's pupils shrank slightly. Is this really the legendary Underworld? However, the Underworld did not look like the terrifying boundless hell in the legends. Instead, it looked more like a desolate village. Ling Shiqi frowned. He could only walk through the Underworld's Gate and continue forward. Inside the Underworld's Gate was a rugged path called the Road to the Underworld. Beside the road to the Underworld was an almost dried-up stream. It was the River of Forgetfulness. As he walked forward, he came to a small wooden bridge that was 2 to 3 feet long. Looking at the rotten wooden board, it seemed like it would break with a light step. However, this small bridge was called the Bridge of Helplessness. Ling Shiqi subconsciously looked left and right. He did not see an old woman giving soup here. His brows were already furrowed. From the names of these places, this was indeed no different from the hell mentioned in his previous life. However, this was too shabby. It was not worthy of the grade of a god-level territory. Ling Shichi could only continue forward with doubts. Creak. Creak. He walked across the shaky bridge of helplessness. Beside him was a haystack that was several people tall. On it were the words, Village Viewing Platform. Behind the village viewing platform was an extremely ugly boulder. One side of the boulder was very smooth. This item was called the Three-Life Stone. Ling Shichi stopped in front of the Three-Life Stone for a while. He did not see his previous life and current life on it. He shook his head and walked forward. Not long after, he came in front of a large thatched hut. This unremarkable thatched hut was actually the hall of ecstasy that condemned people to sin. Ling Shichi did not walk in. His attention was attracted by a dilapidated city gate not far away. The city gate was about 3 to 4 feet tall. The dilapidated city walls on both sides did not seem to have an end. There was a couplet on both sides of the city gate. The first couplet said, "Man and ghost, ghost and man and ghost are different." The second couplet said, "Yin and yang, yang and yin, yin and yang are forever separated." This couplet did not have a horizontal inscription. Instead, there was a black plaque where the words, Fengdu City, were written in gold. Chapter 584. Seeing the 3 golden words, Fengdu City, Ling Shichi's eyes lit up. He vaguely remembered that there were 2 types of underworld systems in his previous life. One was the East Mountain underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain, and the other was the Fengdu City underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain. Of course, there were also systems that combined the 2. The Great Emperor of the East Mountain was in charge of all living things in the world, while the Fengdu Emperor of the North was in charge of hell. It seemed that the god-tier territory he had drawn was a mythological system led by the Fengdu Emperor. The gates of Fengdu City were currently closed. Ling Shichi walked up to the gates and pushed gently. The gates were easily pushed open by him. However, there was nothing behind the gates. There was only nothingness. At this time, the system prompt appeared. Congratulations to the host for becoming the master of Underworld, the Fengdu Emperor of the North. Underworld Territories current level, Tier 0. Underworld Territories upgrade requirements 1. Recruit a member of Underworld. 2. 5,000 system coins. Seeing this information, Ling Shichi finally understood. It turned out that although the territory drawn by the system was God tier, it still needed to be upgraded slowly from Tier 1. The 2 requirements to upgrade Underworld seemed simple, but Ling Shichi had a bad feeling about them. First, he needed to recruit a member. This was the first member of Underworld, and it had to be someone he could completely trust. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the Delta Origi. But what about the future? If he continued to upgrade Underworld, he would definitely need to recruit more members. Who would he look for then? Also, the system coins were also a scam. Upgrading Underworld from Tier 0 to Tier 1 required 5,000 system coins. Wouldn't that be a sky-high price in the future? He vaguely felt that the territory system was a bottomless pit. Most importantly, apart from being able to teleport into Underworld to avoid danger, there seemed to be nothing else he could do. As for his title of Fengdu Emperor of the North, it seemed very powerful, but it was completely useless. He was a general without an army. After walking around Underworld, he gained nothing. The joy he felt from drawing a god-tier territory was completely washed away. At least for now, this Underworld was indeed useless. He just didn't know what it would become after upgrading. Ling Shichi sighed deeply, then chose to leave the territory. The next moment, he appeared in the outside world again, and his location remained the same. He suddenly became thoughtful. If he encountered any danger in the future and needed to hide in the underworld, then he would have to stay there for a while. Otherwise, it would be bad if the enemy was waiting for him. At this point, he had more or less finished studying the changes that had occurred after the system upgrade. It was time to get down to business. He opened the system map and quickly found the location of the Wasteland tribe. Then, he was bathed in red, blue, and yellow light and disappeared. At this time, in the central tent of the Wasteland tribe, Chief Anson was sitting with a worried face. Below him, there were 3 people arguing fiercely. They were the 3rd, 4th and 5th chiefs of the Wilderness tribe, 2 in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm and 1 in the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. The reason for their quarrel was Hope's Baron Chuan tribe. The Baron Chuan tribe could be said to be the most talked about force in Ningyan County recently. Hope had destroyed 2 spirit cultivation sects in succession and subdued some sections. Not only had he become famous, but his strength had also improved greatly. The Baron Chuan tribe and the Baron Chuan tribe were sworn enemies. The Baron Chuan tribe had always been stronger, but now they were obviously weaker than Hope. Everyone knew what Hope was thinking, so now the Baron Chuan tribe was most worried about when Hope would come to attack them. The 3rd leader of the Baron Chuan tribe said, "Hope is ambitious. He has long been in a situation where he will fight to the death with us. Sooner or later, he will attack us. Instead of passively defending, we might as well take advantage of the fact that the sects that have surrendered to him haven't gathered yet and gain the upper hand." You make it sound nice. We have been enemies with Hope for so long. Don't you know that he has spies around us? As long as we send a large number of people, he will definitely know in advance. The 4th leader shook his head. The 3rd leader's face fell. He sneered and said, "If you know that there are spies around, you will be negligent. What do you know? Sometimes, we can use these spies to deliberately leak false information to Hope, but we definitely won't be able to hide it from him if we move on a large scale." The 5th leader acted as a mediator. "The most important thing now is to strengthen our strength. In my opinion, we should call back Second Brother as soon as possible. Also, we can contact the sects that have been on good terms with us before. Maybe we can borrow some people." Leader Anson finally spoke. 5th leader's idea is reliable. As long as we gather all our strength and deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo, Hope won't dare to attack us rashly even if he is slightly stronger than us. The 4th leader sighed. "Big brother, think about it. Why did the Baron Chuan tribe destroy the Water Cloud sect and the Qin family of Blazing Sun City? Isn't it because these 2 sects accepted his benefits but didn't do anything? Now, who doesn't know that we are like fire and water with Hope? We can fight at any time. Which sects will help us at this time?" If worst comes to worst, we will follow Hope's example and kill whoever disobeys," the 3rd leader shouted. However, at this moment, a person ran in from outside and bowed. "Leader, someone outside wants to see you. He says he has an important secret to tell you." The 3rd leader was immediately displeased. "Who is this person? What is his cultivation level?" The person shook his head and said, "I don't recognize him. He seems to be a rogue cultivator, only at the Spirit Transformation Realm." Spirit Transformation Realm. The 3rd leader was furious. "How dare you? How dare you swindle your way into our tribe? Break his legs and throw him out." "But..." The person hesitated and raised the thing in his hand. It was a broken green gem. The Wasteland Gem. The leaders were shocked when they saw it. This Wasteland Gem was a treasure unique to their tribe, and only experts at the 4 realms of heaven were qualified to wear it. Since this gem was broken, it meant that someone in the Wasteland tribe had died. Anson immediately felt that something was wrong. He quickly said, quickly bring the person at the door in. Yes. Soon, a shabbily dressed middle-aged man walked in. His appearance was average, and his face was a little stiff. He slowly said, "Greetings, leaders." And Sen and the others looked at each other. This person didn't seem to be very smart. "Who are you? Where did you get this wasteland gem?" And Sen asked in a deep voice. I found it at Mount San Ning. There are still many of these things." After saying that, he shook his sleeves. With a clatter, a small pile of broken wasteland gems was thrown to the ground. There was even a piece that was about the same size as Sen's head. And Sen and the others instantly turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. Chapter 585. Anson and the other three recognized it at a glance. The biggest gem belonged to the second leader, Cook. Coupled with the broken gems on the ground, they instantly thought of one thing, and that was that something had happened to the caravan led by Cook. Not only had something happened, but judging from the current situation, they had probably been completely annihilated. The third leader, who had the most explosive temper, shouted, "Impossible." Second brother's caravan was moving in secret, outsiders did not know about it at all. Besides, with second brother's strength and so many experts, how could they be completely annihilated? "I don't believe it." The third leader instantly grabbed the middle-aged man's neck, and a vicious aura rose from his body. However, the man's face was still blank, without the slightest bit of fear. Seeing this, the third leader was even more furious. Just as he was about to pinch the man to death, Sen stopped him. "Third brother, don't be rash. Let's ask clearly first. This brother, can you describe the scene you saw?" The middle-aged man briefly described the scene of Cook's group dying miserably. And Sen's face was also as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who did it? Who else could it be? It must be Hope without a doubt." The third leader said angrily, "Otherwise, who would have the ability to kill second brother? But other than the few of us, no one else knows about second brother's whereabouts. How did Hope intercept second brother?" And Sen asked doubtfully. The third leader looked at the fourth leader suspiciously. The fourth leader's heart trembled. "What, third brother, are you suspecting me?" "Humph, I didn't say that. Why are you in such a hurry to take a seat? Do you have a guilty conscience?" The third leader said sarcastically. "Bullshit. You." Just as the fourth leader was about to refute, Sen shouted, "Enough." Sen instructed, "Men, take care of this person first. Third brother, take some people to Mount Sanning to take a look at the situation. Fifth brother, contact the spirit cultivator sects that are on good terms with us. As for fourth brother, you can go back first." Then, two people walked in and took the middle-aged man away. The third leader glared at the fourth leader fiercely and walked out quickly. The fourth leader secretly gritted his teeth and took a deep look at Senator. However, he didn't say anything and finally went back obediently. The fifth leader said uneasily, "Big brother, will it be dangerous for third brother to go out? I think it's better if we don't split up. Maybe Hopper is lying in ambush around us." Sen thought for a moment and said, "Don't worry. I've also planted spies in the Huangchuan tribe. They haven't done anything yet." The fifth chieftain nodded and left. 30 miles away from the wilderness tribe, Ling Shichi saw the two masters of Gang's spirit realm leaving the wilderness tribe in different directions. He smiled. At present, all the reactions and actions of the wasteland tribe were within his expectations. The middle-aged man with the broken gem just now was actually a casual practitioner caught by Ling Shichi. He controlled the man's mind with flowing light illusion, so in fact, the man had become Ling Shichi's puppet. Ling Shichi couldn't help but sigh at the horror of flowing light illusion. However, this technique also had a certain flaw. which was that the person being controlled would be sluggish. If it weren't for the shocking news that Kuk and the others were all killed, and Sen and the others might have noticed the man's abnormality. But fortunately, they weren't careful enough. Now, the third leader of the wilderness tribe had gone to Mount Sanning with the spirit tablet of spiritual aperture realm. If Ling Shichi was right, Hopper must have arranged masters to ambush there. The third leader probably couldn't come back. As for the fifth chieftain, a killing intent flashed in Ling Shichi's eyes, and he left as light as the wind and as fast as lightning. The Wasteland tribe's fifth chieftain was called Enxing. He had the lowest cultivation, the lowest status, and the lowest authority among the 5 chieftains. Perhaps it was because of this that he saw things more clearly than the other chieftains who were blinded by power. For example, when Ensign asked him to contact the spirit cultivator sects, he could say that 90% of the spirit cultivator sects would not agree to help. Moreover, he always felt that the attack on Kuk's caravan was a bit strange. But he didn't have much authority in front of the other chieftains. Even if he brought it up, it would be ignored, so he could only do as he was told. At this time, he was rushing through a small path to the nearest spirit cultivator sect. Suddenly, a cold wind blew around him, and ghostly shadows howled. White bone claw shadows fell from the sky, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart made people feel as if their eardrums were about to burst. Someone's ambushing us. Ensign couldn't help but be shocked. His reaction wasn't slow, and a pair of rings appeared in his hands. The ring split into 2 and flew out of his hand, turning into 2 giant pythons that intertwined and rushed into the claw shadows. However, at this moment, a terrifying baleful aura filled the world, as if a demon had descended. The terrifying baleful aura almost isolated the surrounding spiritual energy, and the 2 giant pythons immediately showed signs of distorting and collapsing. What a terrifying baleful aura! How many people has this person killed? And Xing's heart was filled with shock. He simply couldn't understand who had targeted him and ambushed him here. What he was even more puzzled about was that only the 3 chieftains knew that he had come out, and that he had taken a small path. Most people didn't know about this path at all, so how could the other party have ambushed him here so early? At this moment, even he began to suspect that one of the 3 chieftains had betrayed him. However, he wasn't worried about this right now, but how to escape. In the blink of an eye, the 2 giant pythons had been shattered, and even his pair of rings were covered in cracks. It could be seen that the person who attacked was far stronger than him. The Ling Shichi was also a little surprised by the power of the 9-yin white bone claw. Of course, he was more surprised. He also saw that Enxing had the intention to escape. With a shake of his body, he suddenly divided into 5 colorful figures and surrounded Enxing. Enxing finally saw the person who attacked him, but unfortunately, what he saw were 5 phantoms, which he couldn't tell whether they were real or not. The 5 Ling Shichi formed a pentagonal shape and made a gesture respectively. Behind him, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered madly and condensed into 5 formations of different colors. Spots of flowing light gathered in those formations, exuding extremely terrible spiritual energy fluctuations. Rotating light formation. The 5 formations completely blocked all of Enxing's retreat, leaving him no way to escape. The flowing light fell like a meteor shower. Enxing's cultivation was only at the early stage of Gang's spirit realm. The only thing he could do now was to fight desperately. Unfortunately, when he was about to use his trump card, the 5 Ling Shichi's eyes all flashed with dazzling 9-colored light, and Enxing was suddenly in a trance. It was in this moment of trance that he was killed by the countless streams of light that poured into his body. Enxing was a little bit surprised. The Ling Shichi habitually absorbed a wisp of remnant soul, but to his surprise, a system prompt appeared at this time. Mansion of the Underworld absorbed a soul. Chapter 586. Seeing this system prompt, Ling Shichi's heart skipped a beat. He quickly put away Enxing's mustard bracelet and cleaned up the scene, and then teleported into the mansion of the dead. As soon as he entered the mansion of the dead, he appeared in front of the gate of the dead. As expected, he saw a ghost standing there. Ling Shiqi approached and took a look. The face of the ghost was clearly Enxing. But why did Enxing's soul come to his mansion of the dead after his death? Ling Shiqi thought hard. In fact, there should be a place similar to hell in every world, so that people could continue to reincarnate after death. Now that Enxing's soul came to his mansion of the dead, wasn't it equivalent to robbing the business of the hell in this world? But then again, his mansion of the dead was just a name. It had no ability to help people reincarnate, so Enxing's soul could only be left here for the time being. Ling Shiqi walked around Enxing's soul twice and found that the soul's eyes were dull, like a dead thing. It should be fine to leave it here. Ling Shiqi thought further. Since the mansion of the dead had pulled in other people's souls, it meant that the mansion of the dead did have the function of reincarnation. Then, as the master of the mansion of the dead, would there be some benefits for him to reincarnate others? Of course, this could only be confirmed after the mansion of the dead was upgraded. Now his top priority was to destroy the wilderness tribe first, and then he could plan something big. Then Ling Shiqi left the mansion of the dead, but this matter also made him realize that the god-level territory he had drawn was really not simple. At the same time, in the place where Kuk was ambushed in Sanning Mountain, there were 3 more corpses on the ground. They were the 3rd leader of the wilderness tribe and his 2 subordinates in the spirit aperture realm. The ones who killed them were the 4 masters in the gang's spirit realm, including Hopu and Feng Shamo. Hopu burst into laughter and said, "Awesome, awesome. Now there are only 2 or 3 masters in the gang's spirit realm left in the wilderness tribe. Let's go and join the main force. Tonight I will attack the wilderness tribe." At night, Ansen, the leader of the wilderness tribe, was drinking alone. It was late at night, but the 3rd leader and the 5th leader had not returned. Regardless of whether he went to Mount Sanning to investigate the situation or went to the spirit cultivator sect to ask for help, regardless of the result, he should have returned long ago to report back. Ansen felt uneasy. And this feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, he suddenly sensed that there were strong spiritual forces outside the tribe, and there were 8 of them in the gang's spirit realm. Bang! Ansen's expression froze, and the flagon in his hand shattered on the ground. How is this possible? How is this possible? Hopu was still in the Barren River tribe during the day. When did all of them come out? A few terrified subordinates ran into the room and shouted, "Leader, something bad has happened. That Hopu is coming with a large number of experts. What are you waiting for?" Ansen roared. "Gather the warriors and prepare for battle." Ha 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 ha. Hopper's arrogant laughter echoed throughout heaven and earth. "It's too late, Ansen. Prepare to die." Ansen rushed out of the tent, only to find that the 8 people in the gang's spirit realm led by Hopu had taken the lead to attack. Wherever they went, no one could stop them. The 8 of them were like a sharp knife stabbing into the heart of the wilderness tribe. Seeing his tribesmen being mercilessly slaughtered, Ansen's eyes almost popped out of his head. However, when he saw the dense warriors behind Hopu, he did not choose to fight for his life. Instead, he turned around and fled. At this time, how could he not understand that the 2nd leader, the 3rd leader, and the 5th leader must have been assassinated by Hopu long ago? Now there were only 2 people in the gang's spirit realm left in the tribe, he and the 4th leader, while the other side had 8. How could they fight? Moreover, the spiritual aperture realm of the Barren River tribe was far more than that of the wilderness tribe. Coupled with the 8 people in the gang's spirit realm killing everywhere, the wilderness tribe had suffered heavy losses in a short time. This was no longer an equal battle. If Ansen continued to stay here, what awaited him was only death. It was better to take this opportunity to escape. As long as he was still alive, the wilderness tribe would not be destroyed. Ensign himself had never thought that he would be defeated so quickly and so thoroughly. But this was the fact, and he could only accept it. At this moment, his only thought was to escape first. For Hopu, anyone in the wilderness tribe could live, but Ensign must die. Hopu saw Ensign turn around and flee, and he cursed, "Coward." He would never let Ensign escape, so he immediately rushed after him. Lingshichi executed remnant wind lightning light steps and caught up with Ensign in a few flashes as if he was teleporting. Hundreds of sword chi of star extinction formed a sword prison in the void and shrouded, and Senator Ensign turned around and was startled to find that someone had caught up with him. But when he found that the person who caught up with him was only at the first level of the gang's spirit realm, he suddenly smiled coldly. "You are courting death." A powerful green light burst out from his body, and a fierce beast roar came out, shaking the space and directly shattering a large number of sword chi of star extinction. However, he didn't notice that there were several mysterious stars shining in the sword chi of star extinction. Immediately, several starlight chains fell from the sky and were about to bind Ensign. But behind Ensign suddenly appeared the shadow of a ferocious behemoth as high as dozens of meters. Lingshichi furrowed his brows. He could only control the starlight chain to bind the four limbs of the phantom beast. The phantom beast continued to struggle, causing the starlight chain to shake violently, as if it would break at any moment. However, Lingshichi did stop Ensign. Hopu finally caught up with him. His whole body lit up with spells from the remote antiquity, and behind him, the shadow of an ancient god of war appeared. Hopu didn't use any fancy spiritual power. He just punched, and the ancient god of war punched back. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if all the spiritual power and light of heaven and earth were destroyed by the punch. Rumble. There was a loud bang in the sky, like a sudden clap of thunder. With the place where they were fighting as the center, the ground within a radius of 10,000 feet caved in deeply. Waves of terrifying spirit energy spread out, and those with slightly lower cultivations were directly washed to death. Looking at Ensign again, his body was covered in bloody scars. He looked like a broken porcelain doll, but there were wisps of green light constantly repairing his body. Ensign was seriously injured, and he stared at Lingshichi with hatred. If he hadn't been trapped by Lingshichi's heavenly star lock, how could he have been seriously injured by Hopu in one blow? But he didn't expect that Lingshichi was also staring at him, and his eyes were full of killing intent. As soon as the Demon Advent War blade appeared, a blade light condensed with all of Lingshichi's power tore through the night sky and cut through heaven and earth. At this moment, it was as if heaven and earth were frozen, and only this blade light was able to cut through everything. At the same time, an invisible blade light tore open Ensign's spiritual world, wantonly destroying his divine thoughts. Divine Ephemeral Bloom. Chapter 587. The strike seemed to split the sky and the earth. However, what surprised Lingshichi the most was that Ensign was still alive. At this moment, Ensign was bleeding from all his orifices. His whole body was covered in blood, but the gem on his forehead was emitting a faint light, preserving Ensign's last trace of life. It was the first time that Lingshichi's magic flash in the pan failed. Generally speaking, he would only use this move when he was sure to kill. He didn't expect Ensign to have such a strong life-saving ability. But he wasn't worried, because Ensign could not escape the fate of death. At this time, Hopu attacked again. Although he was also amazed by Lingshichi's strike, the most important thing now was to kill Ensign. Hopu said disdainfully, "The Wasteland Mother Stone can save you once, but not twice." He clenched his fists, and a momentum filled the world. When his fists fell, the earth shook as if an earth dragon turned over. At this time, Ensign had no strength to resist and was buried in the abyss in an instant. Lingshichi absorbed a trace of Ensign's soul and knew that he was finally dead. At the same time, he also got the system, and the underworld had many more souls. These were the dead people of the Wasteland tribe, including Anson. But Ling Shichi felt it was a pity that Anson's storage bracelet would be wasted. He planned to go down and take it out when there was no one around. As soon as Anson died, Hopu couldn't help laughing wildly. He had fought with Anson for decades, and most of the time, he was suppressed by the Wasteland tribe. Now that the Wasteland tribe's defeat was certain, how could he not be excited? With Anson's death, the other fourth leader also died under the siege of several masters of Gang's spirit realm. Without Gang's spirit realm masters, the Wasteland tribe was like meat on a chopping board, completely at the mercy of others. At dawn, the battle was over, and the Wasteland tribe was wiped out. The Wasteland tribe only paid the price of dozens of low-level warriors. It could be said that it was a one-sided massacre. Hopu knew very well that it was all thanks to Ling Shichi, who first helped the Huangchuan tribe expand its power, and then killed 3 masters of the Gang's spirit realm of the Huangchuan tribe. Not only that, he had acted with extreme speed to stop Anson, who was about to escape, and had even forced Anson to use his life-saving trump card. That was how he had been killed by Hop in 2 moves. It could be said that without the Ling Shichi, Hopu would never have been able to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Hopu walked to Ling Shichi with a large pile of mustard seed bags in his arms. "Mr. Liu, I can't thank you enough. These are all the resources we found in the Wasteland tribe. They're all yours." Ling Shichi was also tempted. The Wasteland tribe was equivalent to a second-rate faction, and much stronger than a second-rate faction. For example, there were only 3 Gang Spirit Realm practitioners in the Extreme Fire Manor that he had destroyed, but there were 5 in the Wilderness tribe. Moreover, the warriors cultivated by this kind of tribe were stronger than ordinary spirit cultivators. It was definitely not comparable to an ordinary second-rate faction. More importantly, the Wasteland tribe controlled 2 precious mineral veins, which was equivalent to sitting on 2 mountains of gold and silver. That was real wealth. It was precisely because the 2 mineral veins had fallen into Hopu's hands that he was so generous to give all the resources he had plundered to Ling Shichi. Ling Shichi did not hesitate and reached out to take them. He needed a lot of system coins to cultivate 2 pets and upgrade the mansion of the dead. From time to time, he had to buy something in the mall, so he would never complain about having too many resources. Seeing Ling Shichi accept them, Hopu was also happy. He patted his chest and said, "Mr. Liu, I, Hopu, have always been a man of my word. After I tidy up here, I'll help you kill the Dark Thunder Guards." Ling Shichi shook his head and said with a smile, "The Dark Thunder Guards are not easy to kill. If we really kill them openly, I'm afraid the Thunderfire dynasty will take action. At that time, we will all die without a burial place." "Well, that's true." Hopu scratched his head and said, "Mr. Liu must have his own plans. Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Ling Shichi smiled coldly, "Chief Hopu, I remember that the Wilderness tribe originally had a mineral vein that produced ore called Star Stone. Yes, although this ore is not very precious, it is very adaptable and very suitable for refining weapons. Our Huangchuan tribe relied on this mine to survive until now. Mr. Liu mentioned the Star Stone vein because you want it." Speaking of this, Hopu was still somewhat vigilant. After all, the Star Stone vein was the foundation of his foundation. He could not afford to lose it. Ling Shichi instantly saw through Hopu's thoughts. He said, "Chief Hopu, don't worry. I just want to use the Star Stone vein to lure the Dark Thunder Guards here." "Lure them here?" "Yes." Ling Shichi nodded and said, "If I'm not wrong, Chief Hopu must have handed over a lot of ore to the Dark Thunder Guards every year." At the mention of this, Hopu immediately said angrily, "That Li Zhangtao is really a bastard. He wants us to hand over 30% of the Star Stone vein's production every year. Mr. Liu, do you know how many of our brothers die because of mining every year? Those are the ores we exchanged with our lives for, and Li Zhongtao wants to take away 30% with just a touch of his mouth. But if we don't give it to him, he'll come and seal the star stone vein, and then we won't even get a single ore. Alas, our wilderness tribe has no other source of wealth other than the star stone vein. The warriors of the tribe are not good at anything except fighting, so we can only be slaughtered by Li Zhongtao. Fortunately, that brat Di Chuan has lived up to our expectations. Not only did he enter the discipline commission and receive great training, but he's also been sent to the imperial capital. That Li Zhongtao has only recently restrained himself a little. After listening to these words, most of them were within Leng Shiqi's expectations, but he still had a doubt, so he asked, "Chief Hopu, why do people die while mining?" The warriors of the tribe are all strong and have cultivated spiritual power. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any deaths. Hopu also smiled bitterly. To be honest, this star stone vein has been mined in the hands of the wilderness tribe for hundreds of years. Before that, we don't know how long it has been mined. In fact, there aren't many ores left. If you want to mine, you have to go thousands of feet deep into the cave. But there's something strange down there. From time to time, some strange light will emit. Anyone who touches it will either die or be injured. I've also gone down to take a look myself, but I didn't find any clues. Those lights appear without warning, and there's no pattern at all. So, even if the people sent to mine are all elites, it's inevitable that there will be casualties. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was even more certain of one thing. That was, a secret treasure of the Star Tribe must be under the Star Stone vein. Chapter 588. Leng Shiqi pretended to think for a while. "Chief Hopper, why don't we use the Starpoint Lode to lure the Dark Thunder Guards here?" "What do you want to do, Mr. Liu?" Hopper was also very confused. He didn't know what Leng Shiqi was thinking. Leng Shiqi chuckled. "If the miners find a great treasure in the depths of the Starpoint Lode, what do you think Li Zhongtao will do?" Hopper was stunned. He said in confusion, "But there's no treasure in the Starpoint Lode." "Let's not talk about that first. Based on your understanding of Li Zhongtao, what will he do?" "Humph." Hopper immediately snorted. "If Li Zhongtao knows there's treasure in the Starpoint Lode, he'll definitely bring people to rob it. He'll also threaten to confiscate all my loads if I don't hand over the treasure." "You're right." Leng Shiqi continued, "Then I'd like to ask Chief Hopper another question. Now that we've taken down the Wasteland tribe by force, will the Discipline Commission intervene?" This question was asked to Hopper. He didn't know why Leng Shiqi suddenly changed the topic. However, when he thought about it carefully, it seemed that the Discipline Commission might really come looking for trouble. Although the Huangchuan tribe had destroyed 2 third-rate sects before, they had a good reason to do so. Moreover, the Shuiyun cult and the Qin family were only third-rate sects after all. They didn't know that the Discipline Commission would go to war. However, it was different now. Although the Huangchuan tribe and the Wasteland tribe had been holding grudges for a long time, the destruction of a second-rate sect was a slap to the Discipline Commission's face. They definitely wouldn't be able to escape the investigation of the Discipline Commission. When the news got out, the Discipline Commission would definitely send people to hold them accountable. Thinking of this, Hopper was a little upset. He quickly asked, "Mr. Liu, you have to help me." Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, Chief Hopper. The reason why I asked you those 2 questions is that we can use Li Zhongtao to send the people of the Discipline Commission away." The more he spoke, the more confused Hopper became. Leng Shiqi had no choice but to explain, "Think about it. If you really found a treasure under the Star Point Lode, who would know about it first other than the Huangchuan tribe?" Hopu frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, "Dark Thunder Guards." "That's right. Although the Dark Thunder Guards are a bit of a scoundrel, their ability to gather intelligence is still top-notch. Ling Shiqi nodded. As long as Li Zhongtao knows about this, do you think he will let the people of the Discipline Commission make trouble for you? Wouldn't that be the same as giving the treasure to the Discipline Commission? Li Zhongtao is not that stupid. Hopu finally understood that Ling Shiqi was killing two birds with one stone. Not only could he attract Li Onlei's guards, but he could also prevent the people of the Discipline Commission from causing trouble. However, the premise of all this was that there was a treasure in the Star Point mineral vein. But in reality, where did the treasure come from? It's still up to us whether there is a treasure or not. Ling Shiqi chuckled. I will go down the Star Point mineral vein and deliberately make some noise. The miners will accidentally find the treasure inside. Then, Leader Hopu, you just need to cooperate with me to put on a show. Hopu's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay, Mr. Liu, please arrange it. One day later, Ling Shiqi had arrived at the Star Point mineral vein. At this time, most of the miners had been quietly transferred away, leaving only a few who were pretending to be there. Ling Shiqi soon landed in the deepest part of the Star Point mineral vein. He opened his supercilious eyes and found that his vision was blocked more than 10 miles below. It must be a high-level array that could block the supercilious eyes. Ling Shiqi's body immediately sank into the ground. He was able to move freely underground. Soon, he arrived in front of a complicated array. Seeing that the array was very similar to the one in the Zhuge family, it seemed that it was indeed the work of the Star Tribe. As soon as he appeared, dozens of starlights shot toward him. He could feel the terrible aura of destruction from those starlights. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for him to resist with his current strength. However, he did not need to resist at all. He quickly activated the Heavenly Star technique. With him as the center, a huge star atlas instantly appeared around him. It was the Heavenly Star Gang. The power of the Heavenly Star Gang was even stronger than the Golden Dragon Flame Gang. However, he never dared to use it in front of others. Because if someone recognized it, he would be hunted down by the whole continent. At this time, as soon as the Star Atlas appeared, the starlights that shot toward him suddenly dissipated. The array in front of him also slowly rotated, and a door appeared in front of him. There was no pattern on the door, only a star that shone with a bloody light. Ling Shiqi walked to the door, stretched out his index finger, and forced a drop of blood essence from his fingertip. When the blood flew into the crimson star, the star immediately twisted, and even the door kept twisting. It was as if the space was distorted. Immediately, the bloody star suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a narrow opening that could only allow one person to enter. Ling Shiqi withdrew the Heavenly Star Gang and walked into the opening. When he entered, the outside returned to normal. The first thing that Ling Shiqi saw was a huge, lofty palace. The whole palace was dotted with stars, as if it was formed by countless stars. There was a dark blue road between him and the palace. The road was made of a strange material. Walking on it was as smooth as a mirror, but it gave people the feeling that they were strolling in the starry sky. When they felt it carefully, they found that there were traces of spiritual power actively entering their bodies. The material that paved the road was a rare treasure. Ling Shiqi took a step forward, but he heard a caw-caw sound coming from all around. Then, under the tiles, statues that were 2 people tall rose. There were hundreds of statues, and each of them was silver gray. They were expressionless, and only their eyes shone with starlight. They seemed to have their own consciousness. The scary thing was that the aura that these statues emitted was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the spirit aperture realm. Ling Shiqi was alert. He continued to try to take a few steps forward, and found that the statues had gathered together, forming 2 rows on the left and right. Then, they lowered their heads. It was as if they were welcoming their master back. Ling Shiqi thought that people with the bloodline of the Star Clan could enter unimpeded. He then strode forward and went straight to the door of the main hall. On both sides of the door, there were two huge statues that were dozens of feet tall. When Ling Shiqi came here, the two statues reached out their left and right hands to help him open the door. However, the moment the door was opened, a shocking starlight suddenly burst out thousands of feet below the star vein. The starlight directly penetrated thousands of feet and went straight into the sky. The starlight outlined the shadow of the main hall in the sky, and then suddenly disappeared. Chapter 589. The starlight illuminated the world. Although it was just a flash, it still attracted some people's attention. The Huangchuan tribe immediately took action and tried their best to block the news. Anyone who saw it was either killed or given a lot of benefits to keep their mouths shut. However, this news was still leaked out. At this moment, in Ningyan County's Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhongtao was furious. Because 3 days had passed and he still hadn't found any trace of Ling Shiqi. It was as if this person had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Not only Ling Shiqi, but the two people he brought with him were also the same. Trash, a bunch of trash. Li Zhongtao scolded the few senior supervisors under his command. How could you just watch 3 living people disappear right in front of your eyes? Who are you? You are the Dark Thunder Guards. You can't even find traces of 3 people. What else can you do? Do you still deserve to be the Dark Thunder Guards? Li Zhongtao was anxious. Ling Shiqi had been in Ningyan County for several days, but he couldn't find any trace of Ling Shiqi. It was even more impossible for him to know what Ling Shiqi was doing. Why did Ling Shiqi come to Ningyan County? He was here to seize power. Since he was here to seize power, of course he couldn't just hide. Li Zhongtao thought that Ling Shiqi must be hiding in the dark and planning something. As the saying goes, it's easier to dodge an open spear than an arrow in the dark. Li Zhongtao was now in the dark. He didn't know when Ling Shiqi would make a move, and he didn't know what methods Ling Shiqi would use. Therefore, he was really anxious. He no longer had the confidence that he had on the first day that he had everything under control. The 4 inspectors, including Lin Jigue, all kept their mouths shut. They didn't even dare to breathe. They had indeed messed up this matter and deserved to be scolded. But they couldn't really be blamed. Ling Shiqi and the other 2 people's cultivations were too high. To be honest, only the 4 inspectors and Li Zhongtao himself could keep up with their speed. But they couldn't possibly do it themselves. But other than them, it was impossible for their subordinates to track down Ling Shiqi and the other 2. Lin Jigue and the other 3 were well aware of this, but none of them dared to say it out loud. If anyone said it out loud, it was very likely that they would be sent by Li Zhongtao to find the whereabouts of Ling Shiqi. This was a tough job, and no one was willing to do it. Therefore, they obediently waited for Li Zhongtao to finish scolding and cool down. Lin Jigue then took the opportunity to change the topic. Sir Li, I heard that the Huangchuan tribe has made a lot of movements in the past 2 days. They even destroyed the Wasteland tribe. How could Li Zhongtao not see through Lin Jigue's thoughts? But he still said, I know about this. Hopper doesn't know how to appreciate favors. But we can't do anything about it. The people of the Discipline Commission will look for him. On the other hand, Lin Jigue chuckled and said mysteriously, Sir, actually, your humble servant has also found a piece of shocking good news. Don't keep me in suspense. If you have something to say, just say it, Li Zhongtao said impatiently. Lin Jigue lowered his voice and said, Your humble servant has just received a report that the Starpoint mine of the Huangchuan tribe shone with starlight yesterday. It seems that a rare treasure has appeared. Oh. The Huangchuan tribe again. Recently, Li Zhongtao had often heard news about this tribe. This was too strange. There must be something fishy about this. The recent series of movements of the Huangchuan tribe must be fishy. Could it be that all of this had something to do with this so-called rare treasure? Li Zhongtao asked, "Tell me the details." As soon as he asked, Lin Jigui secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally succeeded in changing the topic. He hurriedly said, "It's strange. There were no signs of the Starpoint mine. Right after Hopper attacked the Wasteland tribe, a mysterious starlight suddenly erupted. After that, Hopper even sealed off the news. But there's no secret in front of my Dark Thunder guards. My spies still found out. It said that there's a treasure hidden thousands of feet deep in the Starpoint mine." "Really?" Li Zhongtao revealed an expression of interest when he heard this. It wasn't rare for there to be a rare treasure beneath the Starpoint mine. For example, the Wasteland gem that the Wasteland tribe was so proud of was dug out from the depths of the Starpoint mine. There's definitely a treasure, but I can't say for sure what kind of treasure it is. Lin Jigui didn't give a definite answer. Li Zhongtao waved his hand. "Who cares what kind of treasure it is? Go and inform Hopper that the Dark Thunder guards want it." However, Lin Jigui was somewhat hesitant. "Your Excellency, there's something that I don't know if I should say." "Enough, hurry up and say it." Li Zhongtao was somewhat impatient. "The Huangchuan tribe has just destroyed the Wasteland tribe. It's reasonable to say that the people of the Discipline Commission will hold them accountable. If news of this treasure reaches the Discipline Commission, it won't be our turn." Li Zhongtao slammed the table. "You're right. Those people from the Discipline Commission have always been jealous of us. If they really know about the treasure, they won't let it go. How about this? Go and negotiate with Hopper immediately. Tell him that as long as they give the treasure to us, I'll help them block the Discipline Commission and save them a lot of trouble. I'll personally make a trip to the Discipline Commission. Your humble servant understands." Lin Jigui hurried to the Starpoint mine as quickly as possible. When he arrived, he saw Hopper personally standing guard here. Lin Jigui was even more convinced after seeing Hopper. He went straight to the point. "Hopper, I'll tell you the truth. Lord Li already knows about the phenomenon at the Starpoint mine. If the Huangchuan tribe doesn't want the mine to be seized, hand over the treasure obediently." Hopper was puzzled. "What are you talking about, Lord Lin? Why don't I understand?" Stop pretending." Lin Jigui sneered. "In the Thunderflame dynasty, who can compare to the Dark Thunder guards in terms of intelligence? Do you think you're foolproof just because you shut some people's mouths? You're underestimating the Dark Thunder guards too much." Hopper's expression changed. "As expected, I can't hide from you." Lin Jigui laughed. "Ha ha ha, Hopper, you better know your limits. You won't have a good ending if you make an enemy of the Dark Thunder guards. Besides, Lord Li said that as long as you're willing to hand over the treasure, we can help you solve the Discipline Commission's problem. The Huangchuan tribe won't lose out at all." Hopper fell silent, but Lin Jigui was very confident. He was sure that Hopper would give in under the carrot and stick. As expected, Hopper said before long, "I can agree, but I have a condition." Lin Jigui was delighted, but he didn't show it on his face. On the contrary, he said with a straight face, "Hopper, you don't seem to have the right to make conditions." Sigh. Hopper sighed deeply. "Then, Lord Lin, do you know why I didn't go down despite knowing that there are treasures below? It's because it's dangerous down there, and the Huangchuan tribe alone isn't enough to take the treasure." Chapter 590. Soon after, Hopu took Lin Jigui back to the deepest part of the star mineral vein, where a magnificent formation was slowly rotating. At the front, there was a gate with complicated galaxies carved on it. Hopu pointed to the gate and said, "Mr. Lin, to tell you the truth, there should be a mysterious treasure here. Unfortunately, the leaders and I are not strong enough to open the gate, so we can't go in and explore it. The condition I mentioned just now is to invite many masters of the Dark Thunder Guards to break the formation together, and then the Huangchuan tribe will only take 30% of the things inside. What do you think, Mr. Lin? Lin Jigui did not answer Hopu, because his face was full of surprise and greed at this time. I'm rich. However, he did not fully believe Hopu's words. He pointed at the gate, and suddenly the fierce thunder Gang Chi burst out and instantly hit the gate. However, the gate did not move. Lin Jigui finally believed Hopu's words. A few masters of the Gang's spirit realm could not open the gate. He was afraid that only masters of the oneness of heaven and men realm could do it in person. Only Li Zhongtao had this strength in the Dark Thunder Guards. He said, I'll report this to Mr. Li. Before we arrive, no one is allowed to get close to this place. After it's done, you will definitely benefit. Mr. Lin, don't worry. Even a fly can't fly in, Hopu assured. Then Lin Jigui rushed back to the Dark Thunder Mansion at full speed to report. At this time, two figures suddenly appeared beside Hopu. They were Lang Shiqi and Feng Shamo. Hopu immediately said, Mr. Liu is really a genius. Everything is exactly as you expected. Lang Shiqi said coldly, the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County are all insatiable. In order to kill Li Zhongtao, I have planned for many years. This formation will be his grave. Chief Hopu, when Li Zhongtao comes here with his men, you only need to do this. On the other side, among the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County, Li Zhongtao had just returned from the Discipline Commission. At this moment, he was reading a secret report carefully. According to this secret report, when the Baron Chuan tribe annihilated the Qin family of Blazing Sun City, a mysterious man appeared and killed the Qin family's patriarch, Qin Chuling, in 3 moves. Li Zhongtao was a little concerned about this mysterious person. Since this person had made a move in the Qin clan, could he have also participated in the battle to destroy the Water Cloud cult and the Wilderness tribe? Who on earth was this mysterious person? Why would he help the Baron Chuan tribe? More importantly, the time when the Huangchuan tribes suddenly went to destroy the Water Cloud cult overlapped with the time when the Lang Shiqi disappeared. Therefore, Li Zhongtao could not help but have a bizarre idea in his mind. Could the mysterious man be Lang Shiqi? However, according to the intelligence, the spiritual technique used by the mysterious man when he killed Qin Chuling was obviously a star cultivation method, which had nothing to do with the Lang Shiqi. This made Li Zhongtao a little uncertain. Just as he was deep in thought, Lin Jigui ran in with an excited expression, interrupting his thoughts. Li Zhongtao's expression darkened. He hated being disturbed the most. Lin Jigui also knew this, but he could not care less. He said happily, Sir, great news. Don't make a fuss. Have you retrieved the treasure? No, there are no treasures under the Star Point mineral vein. Lin Jigui shook his head at first, but immediately changed the topic. But there are treasures in there. What did you say? Li Zhongtao immediately stood up, looking pleasantly surprised. I dare not lie to you, sir. It's like this. Then, Lin Jigui told him what happened in the Star Point mineral vein and Hopu's conditions. Li Zhongtao immediately laughed. Ha ha ha, a secret treasure. From your description, it must be a secret treasure passed down from ancient times. There are countless natural treasures in there. You did well. Thank you, sir. But should we agree to Hopu's conditions? Well, agree first. Now it seems that the secret treasure is not so easy to open, and there may be some dangers inside. Let the people of the Baron Chuan tribe go in with us, and let them take the lead. Li Zhongtao said with a cold smile. You are so wise, sir. Lin Jigui flattered him again without saying anything. Li Zhongtao pondered for a moment, and ordered, "Call Li Liang here and gather more people. We will set off now." "Yes." Lin Jigue agreed quickly, but he felt a little uncomfortable. Li Liang was also one of the 4 great supervisors of Ningyan County, with the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang's spirit realm. However, it was Lin Jigue who discovered the secret treasure from the beginning to the end. Why should he share the benefits with Li Liang? But he had no choice. Li Liang's surname was Li, and he was a close relative of Li Zhongtao. The Dark Thunder Guards mobilized people very quickly. In less than half an hour, dozens of Dark Thunder envoys in Spiritual Pulse Realm and 7 supervisors in Spiritual Aperture Realm had gathered at the gate of Dark Thunder Mansion. Li Zhongtao led Lin Jigue and Li Liang to the front. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Soon, masters gathered in front of the Starlight Gate under the Star Mineral Vein. There were several leaders and many elite warriors led by Hop, as well as the Dark Thunder Guards led by Li Zhongtao. But this strength was enough to challenge a first-rate sect. At this time, Li Zhongtao was looking at the Starlight Gate seriously. He clenched his fist, and a long spear appeared in his hand. As soon as this spear appeared, the narrow underground space was immediately shrouded in waves of killing intent and extreme coldness. Hopu focused his eyes and his expression changed. He recognized that this spear was a 7th-order treasure, the 10 Directions Drifting Snow Spear. This spear was made by the god Broken Mountain a few years ago, and it caused a sensation at that time. But unexpectedly, this floating snow spear fell into Li Zhongtao's hands. "Back off!" Li Zhongtao shouted. His body surged with a majestic aura of spirit energy, making the Spiritual Pulse Realm cultivators unable to breathe. Everyone retreated. They knew that Li Zhongtao was going to use all his strength to break the array. Extreme cold aura gathered on the floating snow spear. Li Zhongtao stabbed out, and instantly, a monstrous aura surged. This spear seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth. Endless frost aura exploded in front of this spear. The spear was like a dragon, like a river flowing east, breaking through the Starlight Gate. Boom! With a deafening sound, the entire underground space began to shake violently. Gravel fell as if it would collapse at any time. But everyone's eyes were locked on the gate. Could Li Zhongtao's all-out attack break through the Starlight Gate? When the light and dust dissipated, everyone saw that there was a hole in the middle of the door that was as wide as a person. The Dark Thunder Guards immediately cheered. Lin Jigue immediately flattered, "Lord Li's divine ability is unparalleled. A mere array can be broken with a flip of your hand. I admire you." Li Zhongtao's aura was a little chaotic, but before he could say anything, Hopu led his men and walked over. Chapter 591. Li Zhongtao stopped Hopu with his spirit spear and sneered, "What? I tried my best to open the passage, but you want to go in first. Do you deserve it?" Hopu's face immediately turned blue and red, as if he was trying hard to suppress the anger in his heart, but he finally stepped aside. Li Zhongtao snorted and led the Dark Thunder Guards into the gap one by one. Hoppa, on the other hand, had only brought along the other 3 chiefs of the Barren River tribe. During the battle, the 4 of them had been at the very back, so Li Zhongtao hadn't noticed them. In addition, the 2 masters of the gang spirit realm of the Fallen Maple sect were not here. They had returned to their sect. After all, they only agreed to help attack the Wilderness tribe. If they had known that Ling Shiqi was going to deal with the Dark Thunder Guards, they would never have agreed. So Ling Shiqi simply let them go. Besides, he couldn't completely trust the people of the Fallen Maple sect. He couldn't make any mistakes in his plan, so he was a little worried about leaving the 2 behind. When they came in, they were all shocked by the scene in front of them. Especially the hall bathed in starlight. Looking from a distance, they could feel the treasure inside. Some people squatted on the ground and knocked on the ground, making a dong-dong sound. The floor tiles don't seem to be ordinary. Let's not talk about the high grade, but the purity is extremely rare. Everyone from the Dark Lightning Guards revealed a look of joy. This was indeed a treasure. However, Hopu took a step forward again. This time, all the Dark Thunder Guards glared at him. Even Li Zhongtao had some killing intent. Hopu suddenly cupped his fists and said, "Please calm down. I think it's too quiet here. I'm afraid it will explode, so I want to have a try first." Hearing this, Li Zhongtao laughed. It was good that someone took the initiative to take the risk. He said, "I see. It seems that you have misunderstood. Leader Hopu, please." Hopper then took out an ordinary star point stone, but there was an inconspicuous red dot on it. He then threw the star point stone forward, and the stone rolled along the road. The star point stone rolled all the way to the entrance of the hole. During this time, everyone only heard the sound of the stone rubbing against the ground. Other than that, nothing else happened. Li Zhongtao was secretly delighted. This also meant that the distance from here to the main hall was safe. He shouted, "Let's go!" Next, the Dark Lightning Guards swarmed towards the main hall, completely ignoring Hopu and the others. Hopper also showed a displeased look, but Li Zhongtao and the others didn't even look at them. However, they didn't notice that when all the Dark Thunder Guards walked in front of them, Hopper had a cold smile on his face. Li Zhongtao's group was very fast, and due to the difference in cultivation level, there was a gap between the front and the back. The group of Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning envoys were at the back. Just as these Dark Thunder Guards ran to the middle of the road, suddenly, caw-caw sounds rang out continuously, and strange statues appeared one after another. As soon as these statues appeared, they all raised their hands, and suddenly, the power of the stars shot out from their eyes. Li Zhongtao and the others were shocked. Hopu had clearly probed just now, so there shouldn't be any danger here. However, he immediately thought that maybe these statues could only sense living people. In fact, the star point stone that Hopu threw out just now had a drop of Ling Shiqi's blood essence, so it didn't trigger this restriction. Li Zhongtao also knew that now wasn't the time to think too much, because at this time, several Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning envoys had already died. His long spear shook, and waves of extremely cold spirit gangs surged out like ripples. Wherever it went, the power of the stars was all destroyed. Of course, the hundreds of statues didn't only have this ability. At this moment, all the statues shook together, and a strange power spread out. This power didn't seem like spiritual power, but the aura was comparable to a spirit aperture realm cultivator. This time, Li Zhongtao's expression was abnormally ugly. Facing hundreds of statues with the power of the spirit aperture realm, even he could fall here. What exactly was this place, and why was there such a terrifying mechanism? He originally thought that this was only a secret treasure found under a medium-grade mine. Even if there was some danger, with his strength of unity of heaven and man realm, he could completely deal with it. But now, he suddenly felt that he seemed to be a bit careless. A few thoughts flashed through Li Zhongtao's mind, and he quickly looked around, as if looking for a way to close these statues. However, the statues didn't give them time to think. Hundreds of statues directly rushed towards the Dark Thunder Guards closest to them, and in an instant, flesh and blood flew everywhere, dyeing the sky red. As for Hopu and the other three leaders, they also went deep into the statues, but if anyone paid attention to them, they would realize that the statues didn't take the initiative to attack Hopu and the others. This was because Hopu and the others were all wearing a jade pendant. There was nothing special about this jade pendant, and it only had a drop of Ling Shiqi's blood essence on it, so they were considered to be on the same side by the statues. And Hopu was using the statues as a cover, slowly approaching Li Zhongtao's side. There were endless screams. Most of the Dark Thunder Guards were only in the spiritual pulse realm, and there was almost no room for resistance in front of the statues. Only the 7 inspectors in the spiritual aperture realm could hold on for a while. However, the 7 of them were now besieged by multiple statues, and their lives were in danger. Lin Jigui and Li Liang were both masters in the gang's spirit realm. The 2 of them could easily kill the statues without any intelligence, but they also knew that this was not a long-term plan. Li Zhongtao looked for a while and couldn't find anything like the eye of the formation, so he had to sweep his long spear. Suddenly, the temperature in this small space plummeted, and even snowflakes and ice crystals fell from the sky. The floating snow spear of 10 directions stabbed repeatedly, and the new moon swept across. Terrifying ice and snow gang raged, and in the blink of an eye, a large number of statues were destroyed, creating a vacuum within 1,000 feet of him. The remaining dozen or so people immediately gathered around him. Li Zhongtao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had painstakingly trained these dark thunder guards. Now, in less than half an incense stick's worth of time, only these few people were left. His heart was bleeding. "Your Excellency Li, let me help you." Hopu smashed several statues in front of him with a heavy punch, shouted loudly, and surrounded him with the other 3 leaders. Li Zhongtao also nodded and said, "Leader Hopu is really wise. Now we are in danger, and only by joining hands can we survive and find the secret treasure." That's. Hopu had already come to Li Zhongtao's side. He smiled kindly, but he didn't finish his sentence. Immediately, he clenched his fists, and dozens of spells with ancient breath lit up all over his body. With a hum, a god of war shadow of more than 100 feet high emerged. Not only him, but the other 3 leaders also did the same. For a moment, 4 phantoms surrounded Li Zhongtao, and 8 mountain-like fists fell on him. At the same time, a shocking illusory wind spiritual gang suddenly appeared, which could cut mountains and rivers. Finally, a strange evil beast flashed in the void, and countless colorful flowers floated down from the sky, shining in all directions, which were magnificent. In the face of this sudden attack, Li Zhongtao was shocked and angry. "Who dares to set me up?" Chapter 592. Eunuch Gao had a low opinion of Li Zhongtao, but no matter what, he was still a great master in the realm of oneness of heaven and men. He was also the inspector who had been in charge of Ningyang County for nearly 10 years. He still had the most basic shrewdness. He instantly saw that someone was deliberately setting up a trap against him. But at this critical moment, he had no time to think about it. Facing the sneak attack of 6 masters of Gang's spirit realm, even Li Zhongtao dared not to be careless. Because the 6 people who attacked him were all strong. The leaders of the Barren River tribe, led by Hopu, had grown from countless battles and had the support of ancient secret skills, so their strength was infinite. As for Feng Shamo and Ling Shiqi, there was no need to even mention them. They were definitely the best amongst their peers. Li Zhongtao held the long spear upside down, and the momentum of the spear changed. The spear momentum became soft, and the white light on the spear suddenly rolled back, and a terrible suction suddenly came. The white light condensed into a huge vortex, swallowing everything around it. Whether it was the shadow of the war god, the phantom wind blade, or thousands of sword chi, they were all swallowed up. As more and more energy was swallowed, the white vortex became bigger and bigger, and its color became more complex. Li Zhongtao's face also turned pale. It seemed that although he temporarily resolved the sneak attack of several people, he was also suffering. A touch of anger flashed across Li Zhongtao's face. Immediately, he directly detonated the strange vortex, and the terrible spiritual power burst out, madly spreading with him as the center. Everything touched by this energy, whether it was a statue or a spirit cultivator, was completely destroyed. Retreat. Ling Shiqi moved his feet and instantly retreated hundreds of feet away. Feng Shamo also moved his shadow and quickly left, but the speed of Hopu and the other three was far less fast. Although they retreated in advance, they were still affected by the power of the explosion. Fortunately, the ancient spell on their bodies offset a lot of power, and they were all slightly injured. The most unlucky ones were the Dark Thunder guards around Li Zhongtao. There were more than 10 people left, but now there were only 4 people left. Lin Jigui and Li Liang were also very depressed. They did not die under the siege of the many statues, but almost died in the hands of their own superior. But at this time, they didn't care about this, especially Lin Jigui. He also saw that this wasn't a secret treasure. Clearly, someone deliberately set them up to die. Lin Jigui recalled that from the moment his subordinates received the news, to him personally coming to check it out, and then going back to invite Li Zhongtao, all of this had been planned by someone. What was laughable was that Lin Jia had originally thought that his subordinate's detection ability was extremely strong, which was why he had detected the treasure under the Star Point mineral vein. Now, it seemed that someone had deliberately leaked it to him. The other party had taken advantage of their greedy nature to set up this trap. For the first time, Lin Jigui resented his own greed. Unfortunately, he would not have the chance to correct it. Li Zhongtao didn't feel good either. He had been an inspector of Ningyan County for 10 years and was used to the feeling of being high and mighty. No force dared to provoke him, so he could take any benefits he wanted. After a long period of smooth sailing, his vigilance had slowly been worn down. In fact, there were some small flaws in the whole process. If he had maintained a high level of vigilance, he might have found something fishy. Unfortunately, it was useless for him to regret it now. He was staring at Ling Shiqi because Ling Shiqi had activated the wild evil demon blood beast body. He had 4 arms and a tail behind him. Li Zhongtao recognized his appearance. Ling Shiqi had used the wild evil demon blood beast body in the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters in Shantai County, so the relevant information about him had been collected long ago. After knowing that Ling Shiqi had been sent to Ningyan County to seize power, Li Zhongtao had also specially searched for all the information about Ling Shiqi. Naturally, he knew some of the characteristics of Ling Shiqi's spiritual techniques. He recognized Ling Shiqi and suddenly realized that after Ling Shiqi disappeared, he had secretly hidden in the Huangchuan tribe. Ling Shiqi had been behind all the big movements of the Wasteland tribe recently. No wonder the Huangchuan tribe, which was originally neither strong nor weak, suddenly became so fierce. They had destroyed 2 third-rate forces and the Wasteland tribe in succession, shocking the entire Ningyan County. Li Zhongtao was also secretly angry. Not long ago, he had also found a flaw, but unfortunately, he was interrupted by Lin Jigui before he could think about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to come here so easily. Li Zhongtao was furious. He shouted hatefully, "Lu Xingji, it was you who did this. What are you trying to do?" What am I trying to do? Of course, Lord Li knows. Ling Shiqi sneered. Coupled with his transformed appearance, he looked extremely evil. Then, he transmitted his voice to Feng Shamo and Hopu, continue to retreat and accumulate power. Then, all the surrounding statues rushed toward Li Zhongtao and the others. Although many of these statues had been destroyed, there were still 100 or 200 of them. Li Zhongtao and the others had consumed a lot of spiritual power after the successive battles. Seeing so many statues rushing toward them, their hearts sank. Even Li Zhongtao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In the beginning, he had used about 20% of his spiritual power to open the Starlight Gate. Later, he had used another 10% to break many statues. The most important thing was that he had resisted the sneak attack of Ling Shiqi and the other 5 masters of Gang's spirit realm and used one of his most powerful spiritual skills. At this time, his spiritual power was less than 50%. Li Zhongtao hurriedly swallowed a few elixirs to restore his spiritual power. Holding the floating snow spear in front of him, he looked like a man who could hold back 10,000 enemies. He said in a low voice, "You block the back. Leave the front to me." 100 or 200 statues swarmed forward, but Li Zhongtao could smash a dozen of them with a casual blow. Although Lin Jigui and the others were busy resisting, at least they could hold on for the time being. At this moment, Ling Shiqi made a move. The 4 arms on his body made a gesture at the same time. In an instant, he divided into 5 phantoms and scattered in the shape of a pentagon. Immediately, 5 formations of different colors emerged, but not on the ground, but in the sky. At the same time, the whole space suddenly became hot and dry. Bursts of scorching air rushed toward them. Flames flashed across, and a complicated formation appeared on the ground. The spiritual power of the 5 Ling Shiqi surged wildly, even causing a small spiritual storm. Then, countless streamers fell from the sky. On the ground, 9 thick golden fire pillars rose into the sky, and there was a faint dragon roar in the air. Ling Shiqi had displayed the rotating light formation and the 9 palaces fire formation at the same time. Li Zhongtao's extreme cold gang was greatly suppressed in an instant. He couldn't help but change his expression. However, Ling Shiqi's target was not him, but Lin Jigui and Li Liang. Chapter 593. In the rotating light formation, thousands of streamers of various colors covered the sky and earth. On the ground, the fire pillars of the golden dragon flame raged, destroying the world. Both the streamers and the fire pillars targeted Lin Jigui and Li Liang. It was true that Li Zhongtao was the most powerful opponent, but Lin Jigui and Li Liang were also masters of Gang's spirit realm. Besides, they had coveted a lot of resources over the years. No one would believe that they didn't have any trump cards. If Ling Shiqi and others besieged Li Zhongtao and ignored these 2 people, accidents might happen. Therefore, they had to get rid of these 2 potential dangers first. Lin Jigui and Li Liang were also shocked. They didn't expect that Ling Shiqi would attack them first. What was more, they didn't expect that Ling Shiqi would be so powerful. Was this really the power of an early stage of Gang's spirit realm? This was indeed the first time that Ling Shiqi had used all his strength after breaking through Gang's spirit realm. After the breakthrough, the power of his wild demon blood beast body had also increased. In addition, his own strength was abnormal. At this time, his state was completely comparable to the late stage of Gang's spirit realm. In the sky and on the ground, there were colorful streamers and flames. Thunder exploded around Lin Jigui, and the violent power of thunder and lightning rushed around, trying to resist. However, at this time, Feng Shamo also took action. He waved his 7th-level precious weapon, Heaven-Hating Wind Saber. 2 small sabers flew out in a crisscross pattern, which seemed to have no power. But the weird thing was that the 2 saber auras ignored the distance between them and all the streams of light and fire and instantly appeared in front of Lin Jigui. Lin Jigui was shocked. Who was this man? He had a 7th-level precious weapon and such a strange spiritual skill. But he was still resisting Ling Shiqi's attack and couldn't afford to be distracted. He hurriedly took out a tortoise shell from his ring hand and spat a mouthful of blood on it. Then the tortoise shell quickly enlarged and formed a huge shield in front of him. Cheat cheat, 2 soft sounds rang out, and 2 extremely fine cracks appeared on the shield. Then, Lin Jigui's expression froze. He looked down and saw that his skin and flesh had been torn open, and his internal organs had been shattered. Ah! Lin Jigui opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything. Without the support of his spiritual energy, the surrounding lightning suddenly disappeared. His figure was instantly engulfed by the sky full of flowing light and terrifying dragon flames. Not even his bones remained. At the same time, the 3 leaders led by Hopu had surrounded and killed Li Liang. At this point, Li Zhongtao was the only dark lightning guard left. From the time Ling Shiqi attacked until now, only 3 or 4 breaths of time had passed. It could be said that they had killed the 2 great inspectors of the Dark Thunder Guard so quickly. Normally, they wouldn't be so relaxed. This was due to Lin Jigui having consumed a large amount of spiritual energy. And it was also due to Li Zhongtao. After all, when he exploded the magical vortex, Lin Jigui was also injured. Li Zhongtao also saw that Ling Shiqi and the others had split up to kill Lin Jigui and Li Liang. He also wanted to help, but at this time, all the statues rushed towards him without fear of death. Even if he was at the unity of heaven and man realm, he couldn't rush out of the encirclement of more than 100 statues comparable to the spirit aperture realm. Seeing Lin Jigui and Li Liang killed, Li Zhongtao was furious. His expression was ferocious, and his eyes became incomparably red, like a hungry beast. He stared at Ling Shiqi with murderous intent and roared, "Lu Xingji, you dared to kill your comrades and set up a trap to harm me. When I get out, I will make you pay a heavy price." Ling Shiqi sneered and said, "Get out. I didn't expect Sir Li to be so naive. Do you think you still have a chance to get out? You." Li Zhongtao's body trembled. When he saw the shocking murderous intent in Ling Shiqi's eyes, his heart thumped. Ling Shiqi wanted to kill him. Even though Li Zhongtao thought of it, he still didn't dare to believe it. Who was he? He was the trusted aide of the Dark Thunder Guard's chief steward Li, a direct descendant of the Li clan, the patrol inspector of the Dark Thunder Guard in Ningyan County, and a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Any one of these identities was enough to shake a region, so when he knew that it was Ling Shiqi's trap, he didn't think that Ling Shiqi would kill him. In his mind, Ling Shiqi wanted nothing more than to get rid of all of his wings, destroy his foundation, and force him to hand over the patrol inspector position. But at this moment, Li Zhongtao finally understood. Ling Shiqi wanted to kill him. He dared to kill him. Ling Shiqi waved his hand, and Feng Shamo and the others surrounded Li Zhongtao from all angles. A trace of fear suddenly appeared in Li Zhongtao's heart. Li Zhongtao was a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm, but his cultivation was forcibly broken through with the help of external objects. His foundation was not as good as that of a spirit cultivator who broke through by himself, so it had been more than 10 years since he reached the unity of heaven and man realm, but he was still at the early stage of the unity of heaven and man realm. If nothing unexpected happened, he was afraid that he would stop here for the rest of his life. Before this, he didn't care. The unity of heaven and man realm was already a strong expert, and he was also in charge of a large number of resources in Ningyan County. Even if he was old, he would have no regrets. But now, he regretted it. Who were the enemies in front of him? The 4 leaders of the Barren River tribe were all at the middle and late stage of the gang's spirit realm, especially Hopu, who was at the peak of the gang's spirit realm. They had ancient secret skills and experienced countless battles. Even if it was a normal breakthrough of the unity of heaven and man realm, it would not be so easy to kill these 4 people. And Feng Shamo, who had just made a move, was so terrible that Li Zhongtao was not sure that he could block it. And Feng Shamo also had a 7th level precious weapon. Who was he? Of course, the biggest threat was Ling Shiqi. Li Zhongtao had read the information about Ling Shiqi and knew the achievements of Ling Shiqi. When he was at the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm, he killed Wei Xiangming, who was at the middle stage of the gang's spirit realm. When he was at the half step of the gang's spirit realm, he killed Elder Wan, who was at the late stage of the gang's spirit realm of the Sky Crane Gang. Now Ling Shiqi was at the gang's spirit realm, so how strong was his real strength? More importantly, the reason why the unity of heaven and man realm was far stronger than the gang's spirit realm was that they could directly mobilize all kinds of spiritual power between heaven and earth. They had already touched a trace of the power of heaven and earth with their human bodies, which was the so-called unity of heaven and man realm. What Li Zhongtao practiced was cold qi, so he could directly extract the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth, which made him have the power of ice and snow with a wave of his hand. But now the whole secret space was almost filled with the golden earth dragon flame. Under the burning of the strange fire of heaven and earth, the ice spiritual power here was almost burned out. Li Zhongtao could not mobilize much ice spiritual power at all, which meant that he did not have much advantage except that his own spiritual power was more powerful. So when he was surrounded by the 6 people of Lingshiqi, even if his cultivation was far higher than theirs and he had a trump card, he could not help but feel a little scared. He was afraid of death. Lingshiqi keenly saw through Li Zhongtao's mind and sneered, "The inspector of Ningyang County, a master of the unity of heaven and man realm, is afraid? You are really a loser." Lingshiqi hit the nail on the head, and Li Zhongtao was like a cat whose tail was guessed. He suddenly exploded, "Lu Xingji, even if I die today, I will drag you down with me. Only a loser would say such words, but you'd better deal with these things first." Lingshiqi waved his hand, and the remaining hundreds of statues continued to rush to Li Zhongtao like moths to a flame. Chapter 594. Lingshiqi also knew that the 6 people on his side were very strong, but he didn't dare to be careless. This was the first time he faced an expert in the unity of heaven realm. As long as you weren't in the unity of heaven realm, you would never know how terrifying this realm was. Moreover, Li Zhongtao had been in Ningyang County for a long time, so he must have a lot of trump cards. Rushing up rashly would give him an opportunity. Therefore, Lingshiqi planned to make the best use of the statues to wear down Li Zhongtao's spirit energy. He also knew that Li Zhongtao used external objects to break through, so his spirit energy was definitely not very pure. If Li Zhongtao wanted to deal with these 100 statues, he would have to use a lot of spirit energy. This was a soft knife. Lingshiqi also didn't plan to rely on the statues. His 4 limbs changed the spirit seals, and the 9 palace fire diagram that hadn't dissipated yet moved over. The surrounding air instantly became extremely explosive, and the rolling heat waves almost squeezed out all the ice spirit energy between heaven and earth, weakening Li Zhongtao's strength. The white light on Li Zhongtao's 10 directions floating snow spear dimmed a bit, and his face became even uglier. "That's a heavenly flame!" he exclaimed. Lingshiqi's information only said that he suspected to have a heavenly flame, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be amazed. As soon as the heavenly flame appeared, the entire space was filled with fire spirit energy. Not only was Li Zhongtao unable to use his ice spirit energy, but his ice spirit techniques were also greatly reduced. What made Li Zhongtao even more resentful was that Lingshiqi only controlled the 9 fire pillars to move left and right, but didn't take the initiative to attack. He still used the statues to besiege him. Li Zhongtao knew that if this continued, he would be tortured to death sooner or later, so he might as well fight. Then he quickly took out a white jade box. He opened it, and a finger-length white silkworm was lying inside. As soon as the box was opened, a dense cold air was emitted from the ice silkworm, which could actually resist a portion of the pure gold earth dragon flames. Ho Pu's eyes widened, and he said in surprise, "That's the immortal ice silkworm, a treasure for cultivators who cultivate ice spirit energy. It's comparable to an 8th-tier treasure." He wasn't wrong. This immortal frost ice silkworm was something that Li Zhongtao always carried with him for cultivation. However, at this moment, he picked up the ice silkworm and swallowed it. Soon after, a layer of terrifying frost appeared on Li Zhongtao's face. However, his aura became even more berserk. Even the cold chi that was suppressed by the pure gold earth dragon flame was rebounded a little. Lingshiqi narrowed his eyes. Li Zhongtao was using the immortal chilling ice silkworm as a means to continuously supply him with spiritual energy. This method would definitely harm the immortal chilling ice silkworm. It would also cause the spirit veins in Li Zhongtao's body to be filled with cold energy, ultimately causing them to freeze. This was undoubtedly killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. However, Li Zhongtao didn't care about this at all. He only wanted to kill. Ling Shiqi saw that the method of consuming spiritual power was not working. He moved his hands behind his back, and the 9 pillars of fire suddenly turned into dragons that roamed the sky. 9 dragons streaked across the sky, their might shaking the surroundings. Ling Shiqi's spiritual power surged and locked onto Li Zhongtao. Soon after, the 9 pure gold fire dragons flew down. The entire small space was filled with scorching dragon flames. Since he couldn't continue to exhaust his spiritual power, he could only attack head-on. He wanted to see if his pure gold earth dragon flame could suppress the immortal chilling ice silkworm. Feng Shamo and Ho Pu no longer held back. In the blink of an eye, 4 enormous war gods appeared. However, this time, they didn't fight individually. Instead, they formed a simple formation. Although the formation was simple, it could completely gather the power of the 4 people. Looking up, 8 mountain-like fists smashed down one after another. Feng Shamo didn't move. If one looked closely, they would see that his eyes had turned pitch black. There was no other emotion in them, only one. That was hatred. The 9 dragons roared, and the fist broke the river. Under such a terrifying attack, Li Zhongtao roared madly. 2 streams of blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. It was clear that he was forced into a dead end. Li Zhongtao raised his spear, and a violent spiritual power fluctuation spread out. Even the surrounding space was visibly distorted. The spear pierced out, and the ice river flowed to the east. The ice river reversed and collided with the fire dragon. The 2 opposing forces, ice and fire, fiercely collided, causing the small space to tremble. When Ho Pu and the others' fists landed, a demonic dagger appeared in Li Zhongtao's left hand. When the dagger slashed out, there wasn't any blade aura. Instead, there was a blurred light. Ho Pu and the others instantly fell into a boundless illusion. However, to Ling Shiqi, this illusion technique was nothing at all. His main body made a strange hand seal, and a 9-colored spirit light suddenly erupted. There seemed to be a 9-colored vortex spinning in his eyes. Li Zhongtao's eyes also seemed to reflect a 9-colored light. Li Zhongtao's divine sense suddenly stagnated, and even the spiritual power in his body stopped circulating. Flowing light illusion technique. Fortunately, the dagger in his hand suddenly trembled violently, helping him break free from the illusion. However, in this moment of distraction, his ice river shattered, causing the fire dragon to wreak havoc, and it had already arrived. Li Zhongtao stretched out his hand, and a blurry figure suddenly appeared from the ring on his finger. The figure held a spirit sword, and its appearance was somewhat similar to Li Jueqing's. The illusory figure pointed the sword, and suddenly, the space was destroyed. The flame dragon was torn apart, and the sword broke the fist aura. In fact, the illusory figure was their Li family's ancestor. Any family member who broke through to the unity of heaven and man realm would be qualified to receive this ring, which contained the will of the Li family's ancestor. Although it was just a will, it was comparable to the full-force attack of a mid-stage unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Li Zhongtao finally resolved this wave, but before he could breathe a sigh of relief, Feng Shamo had already slashed out. His heaven-hating extreme wind blade had become incomparably dim. When he slashed out, there was no blade aura or blade light. Only a strange blade intent directly attacked Li Zhongtao's mind. Li Zhongtao had just barely broken free from the control of the flowing light illusion technique, and his mind was still unstable. Feng Shamo's blade intent broke into his mind without any obstruction. However, Li Zhongtao didn't feel any discomfort. He easily repelled Feng Shamo with the tip of his spear. He didn't understand the meaning behind Feng Shamo's actions. If Feng Shamo had used the same blade technique that killed Lin Jigue, then he would have been seriously injured at the very least. However, he didn't have time to think about it, because the others had already attacked. Especially Ling Shiqi, who condensed a dazzling black and white brilliance on his left and right. The holy radiance and dark demonic power didn't repel each other, but instead merged together. Ling Shiqi raised his arms high, and the black and white streams of light rushed into the sky. They intertwined with each other and condensed into a black and white dragon. The dragon was about 50 to 60 feet long. As soon as it appeared, it soared into the sky. The power of yin and yang destruction on its body directly caused the 5 elements in the space to become chaotic. Yin and yang were reversed, and the spiritual power of heaven and earth was pushed out. Void Swimming Dragon. Chapter 595. Li Zhongtao, Hopper, and the others were shocked to find that they couldn't use spiritual Highland, and Li Zhongtao was completely unable to communicate with the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth. His pupils suddenly shrank. At that moment, he seemed to see the figure of the Grim Reaper. However, he didn't give up. Instead, he took out several strange-looking things. These were all life-saving trump cards that he had accumulated over the years. The yin-yang dragon attacked directly. Yin and yang intertwined, and its power was unparalleled. Li Zhongtao patted a doll in his hand. Immediately, the doll continued to grow, and it turned into a huge puppet that was more than 100 feet tall. He tore 2 pieces of spiritual paper in succession. Then, a curtain of water and a mountain peak appeared in front of him. He crushed a scarlet heart that was still beating. As blood filled the air, a demon that seemed to have crawled out of the netherworld was faintly discernible. Li Zhongtao actually had so many trump cards. As the yin-yang dragon roared, the puppet was instantly crushed into powder. Waves of terrifying destructive power stirred up the water curtain, splitting mountains and rivers. In the end, the demon didn't even have the chance to fully reveal its body before it was directly turned into dust by the extreme yang power. However, these trump cards also bought Li Zhongtao some time. He directly burned his essence blood, turned into a ray of bloodlight, and rushed to the entrance. Unfortunately, at that moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Do you hate? You hate the heavens for being unfair. You hate Lu Xingji for plotting to kill you. You hate Lin Jigue for being greedy and causing you to be in danger. You hate Eunuch Gao for wanting to take away your power. That voice was like a curse that kept reverberating in his mind, and every word it said hit his soul directly. Yes, he hated it. Of course he hated it. He couldn't wait to kill Ling Shiqi, and even Eunuch Gao. Li Zhongtao's footsteps suddenly stopped. His face was full of crazy hatred, but his eyes were strangely black. Ling Shiqi knew that this was Feng Shemo's move. He couldn't miss this good opportunity. Holding the demon arrival battle saber, he immediately slashed out a shocking saber light. In an instant, time and space seemed to be stagnant. The entire starlight space suddenly dimmed, as if there were only 2 colors left between heaven and earth. Everyone's movement seemed to slow down, especially Li Zhongtao. The expression on his face was extremely ferocious. His eyes were motionless, as if they were frozen. But at that moment, there was a crack sound in the space, and Li Zhongtao's body shattered like a mirror. At the same time, a saber light to tear through his mental defense and directly cut off his consciousness. Divine ephemeral flash. Ling Shiqi's Gang Qi, Blood Qi, Evil Qi, Devil Qi, Demon Qi, Evil Qi, and even his killing intent and will had all been infused into it. When everything returned, everything, to Li's S, and Li's his, Li S to his. Ling Shiqi had already lost all his buffs. His face was as pale as paper, and countless fine cracks appeared on his body. Blood seeped out and dyed him red. Maintaining the wild evil demon blood beast body for a long time was already a huge burden. Moreover, this was the first time he had used the great void swimming dragon and divine ephemeral flash at the same time. All the strength in his body was almost exhausted, and even his spiritual meridians were beginning to shrink. He swallowed a few pills and absorbed a wisp of Li Zhangtao's remnant soul. Only then did his face become a little rosy. At that moment, the demon arrival battle saber in his hand suddenly let out a loud buzzing sound. Strangely, the demon arrival battle saber absorbed all the remaining blood of Li Zhangtao. The demon arrival saber trembled violently in Ling Shiqi's hand. The demon arrival battle saber soon calmed down, but there was a thin line of blood on the saber's body. Feng Shamo was attracted by the movement. Seeing the abnormality of the demon arrival battle saber, he said in surprise, "This saber is quite extraordinary. It has the potential to be promoted to a 7th level precious weapon." He had a 7th level heaven-hating saber, so he had the right to speak. Of course, what surprised him the most was Ling Shiqi's strength. When he was in Shantai Prefecture, Feng Shamo also saw Ling Shiqi activate the wild evil demon blood beast body and use the great void swimming dragon to kill Elder Wan. But at that time, Ling Shiqi was only a half-step to Gang's spirit realm, and Feng Shamo also thought that he could kill Elder Wan, so he regarded Ling Shiqi as an equal. But in today's battle, he clearly saw that Ling Shiqi's strength had made a qualitative leap. Whether it was the 9 Palaces fire formation, the great void swimming dragon, or divine ephemeral flash, they were all much more powerful than when he was a half-step to Gang's spirit realm. Feng Shamo had realized that Ling Shiqi's strength seemed to have surpassed his. It could be said that he had witnessed Ling Shiqi's growth from the spirit transformation realm to the present. The speed of Ling Shiqi's progress made him very frightened. Feng Shamo found it a little hard to accept. The feeling of being surpassed by a junior step by step was really uncomfortable. The key was that Feng Shamo was arrogant and proud. In the face of Ling Shiqi's strong rise, he couldn't help but have a strong desire to win. But he didn't want to suppress Ling Shiqi. Instead, he wanted to continue to leave Ling Shiqi behind with his own strength. Hopu and the others stood there in a daze after Li Zhangtao's death and didn't come to their senses until now. Hopu walked quickly to Li Zhangtao's shriveled body with an incredulous expression on his face. Li Zhangtao, the inspector of Ningyang County and a grandmaster in the oneness of heaven and men realm, died like this? He died at their hands. Ever since Li Zhangtao became the inspector of Ningyang County, he had angered everyone. Forces like the Baron Chuan tribe were the most difficult to deal with, and they had been oppressed by Li Zhangtao over the years. Now that the culprit had died at their hands, Hopu felt like he was dreaming. Ling Shiqi walked to his side and said, "We were able to kill Li Zhangtao this time thanks to Leader Hopu and the other 3 leaders. Don't worry, this matter won't involve the Baron Chuan tribe." Li Zhangtao, the inspector of the Dark Thunder Guards, the 2 inspectors, and many Dark Thunder envoys had died at the Star Point mine. If this matter was exposed, the Baron Chuan tribe would definitely suffer the wrath of the Thunderfire dynasty. However, Ling Shiqi was already prepared. Hopu nodded and said, "I believe in Mr. Lu's ability, but can I know Mr. Lu's true identity now?" In fact, during the battle, Li Zhangtao had called out Ling Shiqi's alias, so his identity was definitely not simple. Well, Leader Hopu should know. If nothing unexpected happens, you will know my identity in a few days. While they were talking, the space suddenly shook a few times, and the space in the sky was distorted. Ling Shiqi's expression changed and he shouted, "Oh no, the formation is about to collapse. We have to leave here quickly." Chapter 596. The distance between the Star Point Lode and the Dark Thunder Mansion of Ningyang County was neither far nor close. It would take 4 or 5 days to go back and forth. At this time, the other two supervisors were still drinking in the Dark Thunder Mansion, preparing to welcome Li Zhongtao back. But they didn't expect that it was Ling Shiqi who came. Boom! With a loud noise, the gate of the Dark Thunder Mansion was directly smashed. Ling Shiqi, Feng Shamo and Sulwan strode into the Dark Thunder Mansion. Such a big movement naturally attracted many Dark Thunder guards. But when they all saw Ling Shiqi dressed as an eunuch, they all hid far away and dared not to question him. The two supervisors heard the noise and came. At first, they were gloomy, but when they saw Ling Shiqi, they were surprised. They looked at each other and secretly transmitted a message: "He is Lu Xingji. Why did he suddenly show up? He doesn't come with good intentions. Maybe he dares to make trouble when Lord Li is not here. Let's not show any flaws and just send him away." They cupped their hands and said at the same time, "Luo Hua and Xiang Zhiqing pay our respects to Lord Eunuch." However, Ling Shiqi didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his hand and threw a bloody thing to them. The object fell to the ground with a thud, and a foul stench assaulted their nostrils. Luo Hua, Xiang Zhiqing, and Ding Yan were horrified when they saw it. The object on the ground was half of Li Zhongtao's head. Lord Li. Luo Hua was so scared that his eyes were about to pop out. Didn't Li Zhongtao go to the Star Point Lode to get the secret treasure? How could he die? And he died in the hands of Ling Shiqi. Xiang Zhiqing pointed at Ling Shiqi, but his fingers were trembling slightly. He trembled and said, You. He opened his mouth for a long time, but he couldn't even finish a sentence. As a master of Gang's spirit realm, he lost his composure like this. It could be imagined that they were really scared out of their wits at the moment. Ling Shiqi threw out a pile of things. There were accounts, evidence, confessions, and so on. These were all evidence of Li Zhongtao's crimes. During this period of time, Sulwan had not shown herself. She had been gathering evidence. When Li Zhongtao first came to Ningyan County 2 years ago, he did some cover-up. However, later on, he became more and more brazen. Therefore, this evidence was very easy to collect. Ling Shiqi then took out the investigation document given to him by Eunuch Gao and shouted, "Li Zhongtao is audacious." He used his position as an inspector to seek benefits, ignored the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, and made the entire Ningyan County a mess. I was ordered by Steward Gao to investigate Ningyan County. Li Zhongtao had committed a heinous crime and deserved to die. Now that I'm going to take over Dark Thunder Manor temporarily, why aren't you kneeling? Ling Shiqi's words were powerful and resonated throughout Dark Thunder Manor like thunder. Everyone who heard these words knelt on the ground, their bodies trembling slightly. Only Luo Hua and Xiang Zhiqing did not kneel because they were still in a daze. Li Zhongtao was an expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. He did not go to the star mineral vein alone. He also brought Lin Jigui and Li Liang, 2 experts in the Gang spirit realm, several experts in the spirit aperture realm, and dozens of Dark Thunder Guards in the spiritual pulse realm. These people alone were enough to easily destroy an ordinary second-rate sect. However, these people, including Li Zhongtao, were all dead. How was this possible? Humph. Seeing that the 2 of them did not kneel, Ling Shiqi snorted coldly. In an instant, the sky was covered with dark clouds and thunder burst out. A rolling thunder cloud appeared. Ling Shiqi pressed one hand and the thunder cloud stirred. Immediately, a giant hand reached out from the thunder cloud. Lightning flashed and suppressed everything. Purple lightning hand. Only then did Luo Hua and Xiang Zhiqing come to their senses. They did not expect Ling Shiqi to suddenly make a move. The giant hand in the air did not fall quickly, but there was a strong suppressive force, which made them feel like Mount Tai was pressing down on them. Different spiritual highlands flashed around the 2 of them, while Ling Shiqi's left hand quietly formed a seal. Strands of 9-colored light flowed continuously. He suddenly shouted, "How dare you resist? Kneel down! Kneel down! Kneel down! Kneel down!" These words kept echoing in the sky. Luo Wei and Xiang Zhiqing's minds were like being struck by lightning. There was a brief moment of absent-mindedness, and the gang spirit they just condensed dissipated. The purple extreme lightning hand descended, slapping viciously onto the two people's bodies. Bang, bang. A series of explosions rang out and the courtyard of Dark Thunder Manor was thrown into the air. The ground quaked and Luo Wei and Xiang Zhiqing were pressed to the ground, their bodies sinking deep into the ground. And there was a palm print of more than 100 feet on the ground. At this time, the two of them were kneeling on the ground. Their faces were covered with blood, and their eyes were full of trance. They had been hit by Ling Shiqi. Since when was the early stage of gang spirit realms so terrifying? A large number of people who had knelt down long ago were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. Especially when they saw Luo Wei and Xiang Zhiqing being subdued by the giant hand, there was only endless fear for Ling Shiqi in their hearts. It was the first time for them to see Ling Shiqi, but they all felt that he was more terrifying than Li Zhongtao. Ling Shiqi walked to the side of the big pit, looked down at the two of them, and said coldly, "Considering that you two are only accomplices, I will spare your lives for the time being. Next, complete the transfer of power as soon as possible and transfer all the Dark Thunder Guards in Ningyang County here." Puff! Xiang Zhiqing spat out a mouthful of blood, but he endured the injury in his body and reluctantly made a fist and palm salute, saying, I accept your order." After that, he stood up shakily and went to do his job. Luo's cultivation was only at the early stage of gang spirit realm. Under the crushing of Ling Shiqi's purple pole thunderlight hand, his body had been badly damaged. Although he still had a few breaths, he had no strength to move. It was even difficult for him to open his mouth and speak. Trash. Ling Shiqi spat out these two words softly. With a wave of his hand, the violent gang chi of thunder fell down and directly blew up Luo's head. Xiang Zhiqing, who had just walked a few steps, suddenly stopped and then left at a faster speed. Ling Shiqi leisurely walked to the throne in the assembly hall, picked up the jade rui that was placed at the side, and lay back leisurely, waiting for the group of people to do their work. At this time, Feng Shamo said, "What do you think? Isn't it easy to deal with the problem in this way?" In fact, before coming here, Ling Shiqi intended to force them to submit the evidence. If Luo Wei and Xiang Zhiqing still did not surrender, he would take action. However, Feng Shamo said that he could completely suppress them with force, which would be the most efficient way. Sure enough, he killed Luo Wei in a thunderous manner, subdued Xiang Zhiqing and all the Dark Thunder Guards, and took over the Dark Thunder Mansion in a short time. It was surprisingly smooth. Of course, the premise of all this was that Ling Shiqi was strong enough. Chapter 597. Not long after, Xiang Zhiqing brought over the inspector's seal and all the accounts of the Dark Thunder Manor. Ling Shiqi was secretly shocked when he casually flipped through them. Li Zhongtao was really a local tyrant in Ningyang County. The resources that he had plundered over the years were simply too many to count. No wonder eunuch Gao had always coveted Ningyang County. This was simply a money tree. Ling Shiqi then took out Li Zhongtao's mustard seed bracelet. Ever since he killed Li Zhongtao, he had rushed to Dark Thunder Manor without stopping to rest. He did not have the time to check Li Zhongtao's own resources. He used his mental power to check and was immediately amazed. First of all, the space in Li Zhongtao's mustard bracelet was several times larger than Ling Shiqi's, and it was actually filled with all kinds of rare resources. There were 30 to 40,000 spiritual stones alone. These were not ordinary spiritual stones, but all of them were mid-grade spiritual stones. If converted, it was definitely equivalent to more than 4 million ordinary spiritual stones. A mere inspector's mustard bracelet had such a terrifying amount of spiritual stones. Moreover, Li Zhongtao definitely had his own private stash. Who knew how much he had embezzled over the years? Ling Shiqi once again sighed that this local tyrant was much better off than the deputy general manager of the Dark Thunder Manor. He then took out his own mustard bracelet. There were also many resources in it. Some of them were taken from the Dark Thunder Manor in Shantai County, and some were resources from the Wasteland tribe. There were also more than 1 million spiritual stones in it. Now, Ling Shiqi had more than 5 million spiritual stones in his wallet. This made him feel like a nouveau riche. Thinking back to the auction held by Celestial Treasure Firm some time ago, he had sold everything he had and cheated for 300,000 spiritual stones. Now that he suddenly had a huge amount of spiritual stones, he unconsciously straightened his back. Ling Shiqi then continued to check the other resources. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. There were all kinds of high-grade materials, elixirs, and spiritual tools. The worst was of the 5th grade. He even found a lot of 7th grade resources. Among them, the most precious were the 4 celestial elixirs. These were the elixirs that the unity of heaven and man experts needed the most. If the heavenly dipper pellet was priceless, then the celestial pellet was something that could only be found by chance. Those who could refine the celestial pellet were known as alchemy grandmasters. In the entire Starfall continent, the number of alchemy grandmasters could be counted on 2 hands. Therefore, in order to obtain a celestial pill, one's cultivation level, identity, resources, and even luck were all indispensable. However, Li Zhongtao was actually able to get 4 celestial pellets. It could be seen that he really had the power to call the wind and summon the rain in Ningyang County. In addition to the celestial pellet, there were also 2 7th-level precious weapons. One of them was the 10 Directions Fluttering Snow Spear. As for the other one, it was more special. It was actually a bow and arrow. The bow had a peculiar design. It was purple-pink in color and had a slender and elegant bow. Layers of lotus flower petals were engraved on it. It looked as if there was a spirit fox lying on top of it. It was warm and comfortable to hold in one's hand. At the bottom of the bow, there were a few small words engraved on it, Spirit Fox Lotus Bow. After receiving the bow and arrow, Ling Shiqi immediately felt that there seemed to be a faint consciousness floating within it. It seemed to be full of spirituality. However, he frowned because this bow and arrow seemed to be more suitable for women. In addition, he did not have any archery skills. Not only him, but it seemed that there were very few spirit cultivators on the continent who practiced archery. In his impression, the most famous sect on the continent for their archery skills was the Flying Leaf Valley of the 8 Wastelands Path of War. This top sect specialized in archery. Every disciple of the Flying Leaf Valley was known as a godly archer. At the peak of their glory, the Flying Leaf Valley was ranked among the 5 sections. Even if it was not as good as before, it was still a top sect. It was rumored that the Sky Origin stage cultivators of the Flying Leaf Valley could take a person's head from 1,000 miles away. It was a pity that Ling Shiqi did not have any archery skills that he could use right now. Therefore, this Spirit Fox Lotus Bow seemed a little useless. However, it was still a 7th-level artifact after all. Ling Shiqi naturally stored it in the system space. Moreover, even if he did not have any archery skills now, it did not mean that he would not have any in the future. In addition to these few most precious resources, the most coveted thing was the small pile of 7th-level materials. These were all necessary materials for refining 7th-level spirit tools or medicinal pills. No matter where they were placed, they would definitely be sought-after goods. Unfortunately, these things were temporarily useless to Ling Shiqi, so he could only keep them for now. What was worth mentioning was that after Ling Shiqi flipped through the pile, he actually found a letter. This letter was written by a weapon-refining Grand Master named Meng Jingyi of the Shinduan Mountain. Ling Shiqi carefully read it for a while. It turned out that a few years ago, Meng Jingyi was assassinated on his way back to the Divine Tempering Peak. It was Li Zhongtao who saved him. In order to repay his kindness, Meng Jingyi specially made a 7th-level artifact for Li Zhongtao, which was the 10 Directions floating snow spear. Meng Jingyi also promised Li Zhongtao that he could do something for him. As long as Li Zhongtao needed it, he could take this letter directly to the Divine Tempering Peak. Ling Shiqi sneered in his heart. How could Li Zhongtao so easily save someone? Moreover, he often stayed in the Dark Thunder Manor to strategize. How could he have coincidentally encountered Meng Jingyi's assassination attempt? In Ling Shiqi's opinion, all of this could have been set up by Li Zhongtao on purpose. He wanted to lure Meng Jingyi, a weapon-refining Grand Master, into a trap and refine an artifact for him. However, Ling Shiqi could not confirm whether or not this was the case. But it did not matter. Now that this letter was in his hands, Meng Jingyi's favor was now his. It just so happened that Feng Shamo also said that his demon arrival battle saber had the potential to evolve into an artifact. Perhaps he could ask Meng Jingyi to refine the demon arrival battle saber to the 7th level. Looks like I need to make a trip to the Divine Tempering Peak. He secretly made up his mind. Then, he continued to look through the resources. What surprised him was that Li Zhongtao's resources included many 4th and 5th level cultivation methods and spiritual techniques. There were dozens of them altogether. Although Ling Shiqi mainly used 6th level spiritual techniques in battle, it was not bad to have so many spiritual techniques in one go. Not only did it make him more agile in battle, but it also increased the possibility of him fusing spiritual techniques. Unfortunately, Ling Shiqi did not find any 6th-level spiritual techniques. Perhaps Li Zhongtao thought that 6th-level cultivation methods and spiritual techniques were too precious to carry around, so he left them in the treasury. Thinking of the treasury, Ling Shiqi's eyes lit up. He immediately sent someone to call for Xiang Zhiqing. Xiang Zhiqing still dragged his heavily injured body in. He bowed and said, "Lord Lu, what orders do you have for me?" Ling Shiqi did not hesitate. He directly said, "Go and open the treasury." However, Xiang Zhiqing looked troubled. "Lord Lu, the treasury has been set up with layers of formations. Only Lord Li can open it. If you forcefully break the formations, the entire treasury will turn to ashes." Ling Shiqi immediately frowned. He had not thought of this. He could only report this to Eunuch Gao. While he sent people to take over Dark Thunder Manor in Ningyang County, he also needed a few formation masters. Chapter 598. Since the treasury could not be opened, Ling Shiqi was a little disappointed. Li Zhongtao's mustard seed bracelet contained such a huge amount of resources, so there must be even more resources in the treasury. He waved his hand and motioned for Xiang Zhiqing to leave. He first used the sound transmission array here to report the information to Eunuch Gao, then found a secret room and sat down cross-legged. Ling Shiqi was still sorting out his various resources. He divided all the resources into 2 categories. The first category was those that he could use, so these took up the majority. There was also a small portion of resources that he definitely could not use. He directly sold all these resources to the system, and his system coins instantly soared to more than 40,000. Ling Shiqi had never had so many system coins since he got the system. Perhaps all the system coins he had before did not even add up to more than 40,000. This made him realize the importance of strength and identity. Since he had more than 40,000 system coins, of course, he had to convert these system coins into strength. He made a simple plan and planned to do 10 advanced lottery draws and 10 unlimited lottery draws. The advanced lottery draws could only draw level 5 or level 6 resources. Although Ling Shichi did not lack them now, the system would draw things from other worlds, so he was somewhat looking forward to it. The unlimited lottery draws and the advanced lottery draws both cost 1,000 system coins, but the upper limit of the unlimited lottery draws was very high. Anyway, he was rich now, so he could take the risk. As for the remaining 20,000 system coins, Ling Shichi planned to cultivate the Goo King and the four-legged metal-swallowing beast first, and then save some system coins for later use. After making the plan, Ling Shichi immediately opened the lottery draw page. In order to calm himself down, he first selected the advanced lottery draw option and pressed it 10 times in a row. Then, a pair of strange things appeared in front of him, and at the same time, a system notification came. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, immunity to poison. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, advanced challenge card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, clavicle hook. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, level 6 spiritual technique, dual flying fire. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Drunken Dream. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a high-grade reward, 5th order quality and 60 years of power. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the high-grade prize, Phoenix Flying Parasol Tree. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Ethereal Chessboard. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Xiaoyun Poison Needle. In fact, there were many people who could do this, and even shoot more arrows at the same time. But don't forget, this was a 6th level spiritual skill, not a casual archery skill. Therefore, the person who cultivated this spiritual skill had to have extremely strong control. Ling Shichi, on the other hand, was able to ignore this restriction. He was pleasantly surprised as he directly cultivated the dual flying fire to the great perfection. He then took out the Spirit Fox Lotus Bow. He wondered how terrifying the power of a 7th rank bow and arrow, coupled with the dual flying fire at the great perfection, would be if he added the pure gold earth dragon flame. He could not wait to find someone to shoot at. Of course, he stopped thinking about this and continued to look at the prizes. He picked up a large jar of wine next to him, and the words, Drunken Dream, were written on it. So Drunken Dream was a jar of wine. How could a jar of wine be worthy of a high-grade prize? Ling Shichi held a skeptical attitude as he gently lifted a corner of the wine jar. Immediately after, an indescribable wine fragrance assaulted his face. He had only inhaled a trace of it, but he instantly felt his entire body go soft and light. Ling Shichi's primordial spirit trembled, and a pure spiritual force surged out, waking him up in an instant. At the same time, it also surprised him. He only smelled it once, and it made him feel drunk. If someone really drank it, wouldn't they be drunk to death? Although Drunken Dream was not a precious resource and could not increase one's combat strength, if he met someone who liked wine, then the value of Drunken Dream would be even more precious than a 7th level treasure weapon. Ling Shichi quickly covered the wine jar. He could not use this thing for the time being, but it did not mean that he could not use it in the future. Who knows, it might have other uses. He then stretched out his hand and attracted a small ball of spiritual energy floating in the air. This was 60 years of power. However, according to the prompt of the system, this was only equivalent to 60 years of power of a spirit cultivator who practiced a 5th level cultivation method. Ling Shichi did not know how much power this ball of spiritual energy contained. Since it was so, he would find out after giving it a try. He opened his mouth and swallowed this ball of spiritual energy, and then a majestic and pure spiritual force sank into his star sea. At the same time, a 4th level chaotic star and 7 3rd level stars were floating in his spiritual star sea. This was the result of his 2-month closed-door training. But at this moment, starlight suddenly flashed, and a third-level star was formed at a speed visible to the naked eye. And 3 stars were condensed in succession. The spiritual star C suddenly trembled slightly, and 10 third-level stars attracted each other and merged into the second fourth-level chaotic star. Ling Shiqi's cultivation also broke through to the second level of Gang's spirit realm in an instant. At this moment, the spirit chi finally gradually weakened. However, even so, it still helped Ling Shiqi condense another 4 rank 3 stars. Ling Shiqi roughly calculated that 60 years of power of the 5th level cultivation method was equivalent to condensing 7 third-level stars. It could be seen that the 5th level cultivation method was really different from the supreme cultivation method of the heavenly star technique. It was no wonder that many people could set off a bloody storm for a high-level cultivation method. After breaking through to the Gang's spirit realm, Ling Shiqi also found that his cultivation speed was extremely slow. Even if he took the Heaven Gang elixir, refined the soul stone, and used the yin and yang spirit gathering formation, his progress was still as slow as a turtle's. It was not that his aptitude was poor, nor that he had too few resources. It was precisely because he practiced the supreme cultivation method of the heavenly star technique. If he wanted to break through a small realm, the amount of spiritual force he needed to absorb and the effort he put in was also doubled. As for the remaining 4 prizes, except for the Shiyun flying needle, which was a good hidden weapon, the others were very ordinary and did not need to be mentioned. After sorting out all the prizes, Ling Shiqi clicked on the infinite lottery page again. 10 times. Chapter 599. With a flash of light, Ling Shiqi's prize was quickly drawn. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Beginner Strengthening Talisman. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Heavy Strike. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Level 5 Spiritual Technique, Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Basic Alchemy. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Fine Dagger. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Fragrant Handkerchief. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Granite Shield. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Skeleton Summon. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Level 4 Spiritual Weapon, Realgar Dual Blades. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Level 6 Spiritual Technique, Sword Fury Flower. Seeing the results of the 10 infinite draws, Ling Shiqi only had one word left in his mind, and that was, a loss. A huge loss. Apart from the 3 high-grade prizes, the rest of the prizes were all repulsive and unsightly. It could be said that he had lost a total of 7,000 system coins. Even though he was rich now, losing 7,000 system coins still made his heart ache. Moreover, among the 3 advanced prizes, there was a level 5 spiritual technique, Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique. Ling Shiqi had a vague impression of it. It seemed to be one of Shaolin's 72 ultimate techniques, just like the complete divine light. However, the Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique was very unpopular. In order to fully utilize the power of the staff technique, one had to be half drunk and half awake. However, everyone knew that monks did not drink alcohol, so this spiritual technique was very unpopular. However, he thought of the drunken dream that he had just drawn. If he drank a little wine and used the Drunken 8 Immortal Staff Technique, it might have some effect. It was a pity that this spiritual technique was only level 5. For the current Ling Shiqi, it was still a little low. The other level 6 spiritual skill, Sword Fury Wildflowers, was to Ling Shiqi's liking. This was a skill that came from a game world. When this spiritual skill was cultivated to perfection, the surging sword chi was like a blooming flower, layer upon layer. Not only was its power astonishing, but it was also very compatible with the mesmerizing chaotic flowers. Chaotic blossoms' gradually dazzling eyes was Ling Shiqi's first ultimate move. As his strength continued to increase, he also continued to strengthen this move. For example, he had fused the Star Extinction Sword Qi into it some time ago. He had originally planned to fuse the Five Gods illusion technique, but he had yet to succeed. Now that he had the addition of the Sword Fury Wildflower, he believed that if he could integrate all of these into it, the power of the chaotic flower's mesmerizing eyes would definitely increase explosively. As for the last advanced prize, Granite Shield, it was also from a game world. It was a passive skill of the Lava Behemoth. Ling Shiqi had also drawn a passive skill, which was Hell's Curse. So far, the Curse of Hell had increased his mental strength and physical strength by a lot, and he guessed that the souls in the Mansion of the Dead might have something to do with this passive skill. Therefore, even though it was a passive skill, it still had a miraculous effect. This passive skill could provide Ling Shiqi with a layer of shield. As for the thickness of the shield, it was related to his physical strength. The higher his physical strength, the stronger the shield. Ling Shiqi immediately learned this skill. Because it was a passive skill, there were no levels. He also knew the specific value of this skill. The granite shield could provide him with a close-fitting armor that was equivalent to 50% of his physical defense. This meant that when Ling Shiqi received damage, he had to first shatter the granite shield before he could truly damage his body. This value was somewhat different from the game. Ling Shiqi remembered that it increased health, but it was indeed difficult to calculate health in this world. Ling Shiqi then noticed that there was indeed a very thin layer of armor on the surface of his body. It was transparent, and it looked no different from how he usually looked. Ling Shiqi clenched his fists and found that the granite shield did not affect his movements. He was very satisfied. This was equivalent to adding a layer of protection. If he was ambushed by others, this granite shield would play a very important role. After looking at all the prizes, if Ling Shiqi had to give a comment, it would be to protect his property and stay away from the lucky draw. He had spent a total of 20,000 system coins, but the result was that the prizes he received were far from worth the price. Even if it was 10 advanced lucky draws, half of them were useless. In total, he had basically lost half of his extravagant 20 consecutive draws this time. Looking at the remaining 20,000 system coins, Ling Shiqi secretly made up his mind. Before a new lucky draw option appeared, he would never draw again. Instead of using the system coins to gamble on luck, it was better to do something more practical, such as raising a pet. He immediately opened the pet space and checked that the Goo King's advancement had reached 88%. After a rough calculation, it would be successful in about half a month. However, now that Ling Shiqi had money, he wanted to try the effect of the advancement pill. He spent 2,000 system coins from the pet store to buy an intermediate advancement pill and gave it to the Goo King. The Goo King's body began to flicker with a faint 5-colored light, and its body slowly floated up. If one looked carefully, one would find that a pair of small wings had grown out of its back. After a few breaths, the 5-colored light suddenly flashed, and the Goo King flew out of the pet space. It flew around Ling Shiqi a few times and finally fell on his hand. The Goo King was now a rank 5 monster. It was comparable to a master of Gang's spirit realm. However, the Goo King was not a combat monster. It did not have strong combat power, but more of a support ability. Ling Shiqi used the system to check the Goo King's information and found that in addition to the armor form, soul devouring, and flying abilities, there were 2 more abilities. One was Poison Curse. This Goo King was created by Princess Carol by refining countless goo worms. It was very poisonous to begin with, and it was a mixture of many different kinds of toxins. However, Ling Shiqi used the Goo King more as an armor form in the past, so he had hardly used it in this aspect. After the armor form, Ling Shiqi could use the poison curse. The usage of the poison curse was very flexible. It could be planted in a person's body to make them suffer, or it could release poisonous fog and clouds to restrict the enemy. It was a good ability. But to say that he was strong, he wasn't that strong. Because Ling Shiqi's opponents were basically masters of Gang's spirit realm. With the protection of Gang's spirit, the effect of poison was reduced a lot. The other ability was that it had a strong concealment skill. If Ling Shiqi did not use the Byakugan, he would not be able to find the Gu King's trace. With this ability, and the Gu King's intelligence, it would be very convenient for him to gather information in the future. Of course, Ling Shiqi was more concerned about the increase in strength and various strange abilities brought by the Gu King's armor form. Then he bought a few more pet experience pills and fed them to the Gu King. Then he put it back into the pet space and summoned the four-legged gold-swallowing beast. Its range had increased to tens of miles, and it could sense rank 4 treasures. Ling Shiqi should have been disappointed, but after the four-legged metal-swallowing beast broke through to Tier 4, an extremely weak and timid voice entered Ling Shiqi's mind. Moss. Master, Ling Shiqi picked up the four-legged metal-swallowing beast and looked at it in surprise. You've gained intelligence. Why yes, Master. This time, the four-legged metal-swallowing beast's voice was much smoother. It sounded like a baby who had just learned how to speak. The astonishment in Ling Shiqi's eyes intensified. This little thing could actually understand what he was saying. However, the four-legged metal-swallowing beast was only rank 4. One had to know that the king of venomous worms was already rank 5, but it only had a little bit of intelligence. It was impossible for it to communicate through spiritual power. Could this be the result of intelligence strengthening? Ling Shiqi thought of a possibility. He immediately summoned the king of venomous worms and fed it a large number of strengthening pills, all of which were added to intelligence. Sure enough, just as the king of venomous worms swallowed a few thousand system coins, a slightly cold boy's voice appeared. Master. Ling Shiqi nodded with a surprised expression. Intelligence strengthening could indeed unlock the pet's intelligence. Although this did not directly increase the pet's combat power, the significance was great. For example, he could have the king of venomous worms help him track and gather some information, and then report back to him. After all, his Byakugan could only see the aura of spiritual power, but could not hear anything. Another example was if the four-legged metal-swallowing beast discovered any treasure. He could also directly and accurately report it, so as to avoid embarrassing situations like when he used the treasure-seeking compass in the demonic Miasma Mountains. In order to help the king of venomous worms and the four-legged metal-swallowing beast evolve and unlock their intelligence, Ling Shiqi spent nearly 10,000 system coins. However, he felt that it was worth it this time. Ling Shiqi briefly communicated with them for a while before putting them back into the pet space. He saw that he still had about 13,000 system coins, so he opened the system shop to take a look. The system shop was now filled with a dazzling array of goods, and it could be refreshed several times. Ling Shiqi's goal was very clear. What he wanted the most now was not cultivation methods and spiritual skills. This was because he did not lack cultivation methods and spiritual skills for the time being, and it would take him a long time to digest them. What he lacked the most now was trump cards. It was not a spiritual skill like the Void of the Floating Dragon, but a life-saving trump card like the one Li Zhangtao used before he died that did not consume any spiritual power. He was confident that he was now very strong, but those powerful spiritual skills would also consume a lot of spiritual power. If he could kill the enemy, it would be fine. However, if he could not kill the enemy, then he would be in an extremely dangerous situation. Ling Shiqi browsed through the system shop, but did not find what he wanted. He decisively clicked on the refresh button, and all the goods changed. This time, he had a very special item, the Scarecrow Substitute. Scarecrow Substitute can withstand one fatal attack. Price, 10,000 system coins. Ling Shiqi did not hesitate to buy the Scarecrow Substitute. 10,000 system coins for a life. Was there a better deal in the world than this? However, he had just obtained more than 40,000 system coins not long ago. In just a short while, he only had about 3,000 system coins left. He could really spend money like water. After storing the Scarecrow Substitute, Ling Shiqi took out the letter from the weapon refining Grand Master Meng Jingyi. His eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. Before leaving Ningyang County, he definitely had to make a trip to Shinduan Peak. He could either upgrade the Devil Arrival Saber to a level 7 precious weapon, or ask Meng Jingyi to forge a level 7 precious weapon for him. In any case, he had a lot of precious high-grade materials now. Moreover, there was no time to lose. He had to get to Shinduan Peak before the news of Li Zhangtao's death and his takeover of Dark Thunder Manor spread. Otherwise, Meng Jingyi's favor would be useless. After explaining his intentions to Feng Xiaobo and Sulwan, he directly left Dark Thunder Manor. Ling Shiqi found a deserted place and opened the system map. The distance between Dark Thunder Manor and Shinduan Peak was about 3,000 li. After he broke through to the Gang's spirit realm, the teleportation range of the Fate skill had reached 2,000 li. With a flash of tricolored light under his feet, he appeared 2,000 li away in an instant. Then, he summoned Gu King and turned it into a set of flowing light armor. He took a step and soared into the air. 2 pairs of 5-colored wings unfolded on his back. As the 4 wings flapped, his figure directly turned into a flowing light and broke through the air. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.